Chapter 76. 6 Styles, Physical Skills that Surpass the Limits of Human Physical Fitness. They are powerful and versatile. If you learn all of them, you can even fight against devil fruit users. This set of physical skills is almost the signature skill of the CP system. Because it is so easy to use, even the high-ranking officers of the Navy usually learn a few moves. Of course, Stussy also knows it, and her attainments are not low. After all, she is not an ordinary CP agent. Even in this huge spy system, she is a member of the highest CP0. Is this the time to do this? Stussy said, half puzzled and half anxious. Do you know your current situation? Young man, you don't think Charlotte Linling will go to war with the Navy because of you, do you? No matter how much Charlotte Linling covets the power of the giants, she has to make protecting herself her top priority. Faced with a serious world government, even the Charlotte family can only retreat. It can even be said that even if the giants regard Yvonne as a friend, do they dare to confront the government for Yvonne? Moreover, seeing that Yvonne was still unmoved, Stussy licked his rosy lips and changed the words. 6 styles is a very complicated set of moves. How could you learn it in such a short time? Don't worry about anything else. Yvonne just said lightly, show me the 6 moves one by one. What? Stussy frowned. What does that mean? This guy meant that he only needed to watch it once? Stussy couldn't help but feel a little angry. Wasn't this guy a little too arrogant? What did he think he was talking about? Stussy thought she was no longer a fool, but it took her a long time to finally learn those moves. Just start with shaving, then moonwalking, and the rest is up to you. Yvonne looked at Stussy. From now on, don't waste time. You bastard, you don't listen to my advice at all, right? Stussy gritted his teeth and stood up. You want me to show you, right? Then I'll show you. This is it, shave. With a swish, Stussy disappeared in front of Yvonne. Shaving. Stepping on the ground dozens of times in an instant, he released a huge force to move at high speed. Ivan's eyes lit up. He had tried to practice this move himself before, but he never got the hang of it. But now it's different. Then moon step. Stussy shouted, and launched into the air by stepping on the air. The moon step is basically an upgraded version of the shave, using the powerful force of the feet to step on the air to launch into the air. Yvonne watched very seriously. Stussy in the sky noticed his expression. What's the use of being so serious? Can you master the 6 styles in just a few days? Later. Stussy returned to the venue with a smile on her face, but if you look at her carefully, you can find that this woman's smile is a little stiff. Haha, you're finally back. She had just sat down when Morgans came over with a smile. I'm very curious. Curious? Stussy was secretly annoyed in his heart. This Birdman really needed him everywhere. It's just some business matters. What's there to be curious about? Although he was annoyed in his heart, Stussy had an interested look on his face. Morgans, are you planning to change your career? You can't fool me. Morgans lowered his voice. I have been watching that kid, and I saw him when you left. Stussy's face suddenly turned cold. Morgans, if you don't want to die, you'd better be honest. Oh. How scary. Morgan immediately raised his hands. Don't worry, I just want to tell you that no matter what that guy said to you, I did not reveal your identity to him. Nonsense, if you know my real identity, then I really have to doubt whether I have been exposed long ago, otherwise how could everyone know my identity so well? Fortunately, in this guy's eyes, I am still a government spy, and the chat with that guy must involve some kind of transaction. So he can still be scared. But Stussy's eyes condensed slightly. What kind of monster is that boy? Is there really such an unreasonable genius in the world? It makes people feel very frustrated. Yvonne came back some time after Stussy came back. But Garrett was far less perceptive than Morgans. She didn't realize anything, but just talked to Yvonne as before. The tea party continued. It lasted from the afternoon to dusk, and then there was a dinner. After another round of toasts, the tea party of the day came to an end. The invited guests will stay on Cake Island tonight. Charlotte Lingling's palace is quite large, and there is no problem at all for everyone staying here. As the most distinguished guest in Charlotte Lingling's mouth, Yvonne of course, he was treated with the highest standards. He was given a luxurious suite with all kinds of facilities. After entering the room, the first thing Ivan did was to confirm that there were no surveillance cameras in the room. Then, he turned over all the mirrors in the room. Only after this could the safety of the room be guaranteed. Ghost ninjas emerged from Ivan's feet, and they respectfully handed a thick stack of papers to Ivan. Ivan took the stack of papers, but had no intention of unfolding them. The ninjas succeeded. Taking advantage of the opportunity when the guards in the palace were empty, they sneaked into Charlotte Linling's bedroom, and then successfully copied the main text of the road sign history collected by Charlotte Linling. No one was alarmed. In this way, there are still 3 pieces left. One in Wano country, one in Zhou, and only the last piece is missing. But there are clues. The last road sign was originally on Fishman Island. Going there to ask someone should give a result. Knock knock knock. There was a sudden knock on the door. Ivan frowned slightly. Is it over yet? He handed the rubbing to the ninja, who immediately dived into the shadows. Then Ivan opened the door of the room. He looked at the woman outside the door. Garrett was wearing a silk pajamas. Although it was not transparent, the extremely soft clothes still outlined her breathtaking figure. It was hard to imagine that she was only 17 years old. The girl flicked her dark pink hair. I just think that you might be a little lonely at night. Ivan closed the door expressionlessly. Without hesitation. There should be a big battle tomorrow, who would have the mind to do such a thing? Failed, the sister's advice is useless. Outside the door, Garrett pressed her chest and whispered to herself, is this body not attractive to him? I should look completely in line with the aesthetics of normal men, a man who doesn't care about beauty at all. Not only is it not annoying, but it is even more admirable. It feels as handsome as Katakuri brother. Chapter 77. After Ivan drove Garrett away, he took a comfortable hot bath, then lay down on the bed, and activated the sleeping skill inherited from Nobita Nobi. He fell asleep in the blink of an eye. He must face tomorrow's battle with the best attitude. After Ivan entered the dream, the night was still very long. On the sea not far from the sea where the 10,000 kingdoms were located. Huge warships were lying here, and the surging waves could hardly shake them. In the cabin of a warship in the middle, the strong men from the Navy headquarters gathered here. Have your people confirmed it? The commander-in-chief of this operation, Admiral Buddha Sengoku, crossed his arms over his chest. His neatly styled afro was actually slightly reflecting under the light, which showed that a lot of hair wax was indeed used to style it into such a hairstyle. The mainstay of the Navy, who had led the Navy to fight in the sea for decades, looked at a mysterious man in a white suit and a white mask next to him and said, when will that kid leave Cake Island? The latest news is that Charlotte Lingling wants to marry her daughter to that boy in exchange for his help in the affairs of the giant kingdom. The masked man replied calmly, but that boy is not interested in this, and is a bit bored. He should leave Cake Island as soon as possible. Our people will continue to monitor him and notify us as soon as he leaves that sea area. Why not just attack Cake Island? Akainu Sakaski, who was sitting next to him, said sternly, since the government has said that it will cost anything, why not just wipe out the Charlotte family together? Anyway, they are all cancer in this world and should not exist in this ocean. I agree with Lieutenant General Sakaski that they are all cancer. The masked man smiled and said, but don't forget, that guy has the ability to shuttle through the shadows. If we let him react, we will have no chance to catch him. If that kid runs away, even if the Charlotte family is wiped out, it will be a loss. Not worth the loss? Akainu snorted coldly. Even if that kid is related to the attack on Marijoa 5 years ago, so what? The celestial dragons have indeed suffered losses that have not been seen in hundreds of years. However, after all, he is just a kid with great potential. Compared with the Charlotte family, what is he? Of course, Akainu's thoughts will not have any impact. There is only one way to catch that guy. Zhang Guo said, when he is sailing out to sea, destroy the entire ship in an instant. On the sea, he has no shadow to travel with. The general turned his head and looked at the man who was sitting lazily on the side fiddling with a den mushi. And this is something that only you can do, Borsellino. Shadow. The man who is also a candidate for Admiral of the Navy like Akainu, it sounds like the opposite of my ability, so leave it to me. That's it, said Zhang Guo, we'll start the action after that kid sets sail, and take him down with lightning speed. While the Navy was on the alert, Ivan slept very soundly. He slept until dawn. After getting up, he took a shower. The fatigue from yesterday was not left today. He packed up and hung the chu shui around his waist. Coincidentally, there was a knock on the door. Fortunately, it was not Garrett this time, but Sparrow who invited him to have breakfast. Ivan did not refuse. It was a good idea to fill his stomach first. Mom, Mom. Ivan. Did you have a good rest last night? Charlotte Lingling was already in the spacious dining room of the palace. Her breakfast was also a bunch of desserts. With such a high intensity of sweets every day, her exercise volume also dropped sharply as she got older. If she didn't gain weight, who would? Great. Ivan found a seat and sat down. There were many familiar faces in the restaurant, including Stussy, Morgans, and Garrett. I prepared breakfast for you. The woman's expression could be described as indifferent, and her eyes were calm. But her behavior could be called attentive. She placed the food in front of Ivan, picked it up, and even wanted to feed him with her own hands. No. Ivan leaned his head back to avoid the food she brought to his door. In addition to rejecting this woman, I don't want to eat cake in the morning. The breakfast made by Garrett herself was of course in line with the tradition of Cake Island. It was a half-person high, fragrantly baked chocolate cake. The sweet smell was just like Garrett herself, lingering and a little greasy. Ivan didn't want to eat such food in the morning. It was visibly that Garrett's expression was a little frustrated. Mom, Ivan, isn't that too cruel? Charlotte Lingling laughed. Garrett didn't sleep all night just to prepare this cake for you. So what? Ivan said as a matter of course, I accept what I like and reject what I don't like. That's who I am. Should I respond with gentleness just because she flatters me? I don't have such cheap gentleness. Mom. You're right. Charlotte Lingling was not angry, but laughed out loud. So-called freedom means you can refuse everything as you please. Garrett, I'm taking back my order. She looked at her frustrated daughter and said, this matter ends here. Don't bother Ivan anymore. Yes, Mom. Garrett didn't hesitate at all, and immediately turned around and left, leaving behind only a sweet breeze. If it was a pursuit of his wife, then Ivan should be a little disappointed with this woman's decisiveness. But unfortunately, it wasn't. Ivan just felt relaxed. Taking advantage of this relaxation, Ivan said to Charlotte Lingling, after breakfast, it's time for me to say goodbye. Are you in such a hurry? Charlotte Lingling frowned slightly. I also said I would find another daughter to introduce to you. You haven't given up yet. Ivan twitched his mouth. No need, and you are also anxious, aren't you? When will I return to the giant kingdom? Mom. That's right. Charlotte Lingling laughed, then I'll send a boat to take you there. I don't care. Ivan shrugged. You said that yourself, not me. At this time, Morgans approached with a smile. Are you leaving now? Brother Ivan, don't you want to think about it? Ivan glanced at the guy, because, I can't wait either. Ha 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 ha. Really? Morgans laughed. Then I'll be waiting. Waiting for big news. Mom. Just look forward to it. Morgans. Charlotte Lingling also laughed. This is bound to make a sensation around the world. I hope so too. Morgans was answering Charlotte Lingling, but he kept looking at Ivan. I will keep watching. So, after breakfast, Ivan went to the port, where a ship was waiting for him. But when he boarded the ship, an unexpected person appeared in his eyes. It's you again. Ivan was a little helpless. Didn't Charlotte Lingling say that your mission was over? Garrett stood on the deck, cold and charming. This time, it's out of my own will, and I just want to send you back to the giant kingdom. Mom agreed to my request. You are a sticky candy. But this time, you came at an unfortunate time. Chapter 78. A hot air balloon slowly ascended above Cake Island. In the basket below the hot air balloon, Morgans was holding a telescope and looking at a ship that was getting farther and farther away on the sea. Ha 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 ha. Young Ivan is so bold. Morgans laughed. You know what you are going to face next, but you still choose to face it head on. There is no doubt about it. This is bound to be a major event that will shock the world. If you can really do it. As long as you can survive, let me listen to your plan. Almost at the same time, in a room on Cake Island, Stussy slowly took out a den mushi, then sighed. I really don't understand what young people are thinking nowadays. There are obviously simpler ways. However, since that guy already knew about this and can move through shadows, the Navy must be unable to do anything to him, right? The beautiful woman muttered to herself, as for Garrett, Lingling has so many children, it shouldn't matter if one is missing, right? She slowly dialed the phone. The radio waves instantly reached a certain sea area outside the 10,000 countries. General Waring states. We have news from our people. That guy has already sailed. As expected, the next step is to return to the giant kingdom. Great! We are finally here. Set sail. Defend the past. Borsellino, get ready. If we want to catch that guy, it depends on you. It takes time for him to hide in the shadows, so you seize this opportunity and destroy the ship as soon as it appears in our sight. Leave it to me, Mr. Sengoku. Also, after confirming the location of that guy, contact Cake Island. I have to warn Charlotte Lingling first. Yes. Navy, attack. At this time, Yvonne was on the boat that Charlotte Lingling arranged for him, slowly wiping his knife. He took good care of the Kyushui, and there was not a single scratch on the blade. After leaving the Wangguo Sea, the Navy's attack should be coming soon, right? General Zhangguo. This is the first time he has fought a top-level warrior on the sea. You seem very excited. A slightly cold voice came from the side. Yvonne didn't even bother to turn his head. He sat cross-legged on the deck, wiping the blade, while Garrett sat beside him and watched him quietly. Are you happy because you are going to travel with me next time? Garrett made an irresponsible guess. Yvonne said without even turning his head, it's not too late for you to turn back now. Someone may not want me to return to the giant kingdom safely. It doesn't matter. Garrett spread out her right hand and stretched it in front of Yvonne. A ball of translucent sticky liquid appeared on her fair and delicate palm. I am also a person with special abilities. I can fight with you. Yvonne just chuckled. His attitude did not make Garrett feel frustrated. This woman was really as clingy as chewing gum. It's not because of my mother's order, it's out of my own will. The reason is very simple. Even if I don't marry Yvonne, at some point in the future I will definitely be married off by my mother in order to win over someone. I am going to get married anyway, so why can't I choose someone I like? Garrett likes the boy in front of her very much. Before, she only liked his strength and handsomeness, but now, she also likes his character a little. Firm, decisive, indifferent to temptation, who doesn't like such a boy? Since Yvonne rejected her because he didn't like her, Garrett also felt that she should pursue him because she liked him. Yvonne didn't react to this. She wanted to die herself, so what could she say? I just hope that Charlotte Lingling won't be too sad when she knows that her daughter is dead. The boat moved forward all the way, and soon, it was about to sail out of the waters of the world. Yvonne put Chu Shui back to his waist, walked to the side of the boat, and looked into the distance, but all he could see was the endless blue sea. Is it almost time? It's time to come, right? In the sky, the hot air balloon has been slowly following the sky above the ship. Because it flies very high, it is difficult to observe with the naked eye. Ha 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 ha. Here it comes. The climax of today. Morgans danced with joy with a telescope in his hand. Because he saw that on the other side of the small boat, a group of naval warships were closing in. Yvonne. Let me see. How far you can go. But please don't die. Otherwise I will really lose sleep. Found the target. Found the target. On the warship, the soldier in charge of lookout shouted loudly. He saw through the telescope that the target was standing on the deck and looking around boredly. 11 o'clock. The target is on deck. Great. General Zhangguo shouted excitedly, Borsellino. Got it, Mr. Zhangguo. While the voice was still slowly passing on the deck, a ray of light had disappeared into the sky. Admiral Zhangguo continued to give orders, full speed ahead. Surround that guy. Also, immediately invade the Charlotte family's Den Den Mushi network. I want to personally warn Charlotte Lingling. At the same time, on the boat, Yvonne looked up and saw a light flashing in the sky. What are you looking at? Garrett stood beside him and looked up at the sky with him. But she could see nothing. Garrett was stunned. A light condensed in the air, and in the blink of an eye it turned into the appearance of a man. Yo! The man with a wretched face and wearing a grey striped suit smiled lazily, but his right leg was flashing a dazzling light. Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Light speed kick. In Garrett's stunned eyes, the light fell. Be careful. Ivan. She subconsciously stood in front of Ivan and pulled the boy behind her. Ivan paused. Never mind. Lightning splashed on his body, he grabbed Garrett's shoulder, and then bounced towards the sea. Boom. The light fell on the deck. In just a moment, the huge explosion swallowed the entire ship. Kizaru's lightspeed kick can break the huge mangroves in the Sabayati archipelago. That can be a behemoth that can support an area with just one tree. What is a small boat like this? It disappeared in an instant. Oh. It seems that my mission is accomplished. Yizawa floated in the air, looking at the figure running on the sea, and smiled gently. Ivan was running on the sea, looking ahead. On the sea, the warship was clearly visible. Chapter 79. Wanguo, Cake Island. Mom. It's a call from the Navy. Charlotte Perospero rushed over, with a look of astonishment on her face, as if she still hadn't figured out what was going on. You mean the Navy? Perospero, are you kidding me? Charlotte Lingling frowned. I thought it was a joke at first. Perospero held up a den mushi respectfully, his expression quite serious, but I actually received a call from Sengoku. Warring States. Charlotte Lingling took the den mushi and said, Warring States? What do you mean? Do you want me to invite you to the tea party next year? I can't remember when we became so close that we could keep in touch over the phone. Charlotte Lingling. 300. Zhang Guo's deep voice came from the other end of the phone, remember my next warning. This matter has nothing to do with you, don't worry about it. What? Charlotte Lingling's brows immediately frowned even tighter. Are you threatening me, you bastard? Who do you think I am? Whatever you think, you only need to remember one thing, we are determined to get Ivan. Zhang Guo said, if you want to interfere, then be prepared for a full-scale war. Even if it means razing the entire Wang kingdom to the ground, we will not hesitate. The phone was hung up. Charlotte Lingling was a little confused. Ivan. Why did he suddenly talk about Ivan? Mom. At this time, a son came over, monitor the images from Den Mushi. The ship that Ivan and Garrett are on has been attacked. What? Charlotte Lingling's face changed instantly. So, it was the Navy who did it. Perospero gritted his teeth, was the phone call just now a warning? But why Ivan? Is it necessary to go to this extent? It is indeed a bit strange. After that kid caused a big disturbance in G14, the world government did not respond at all. Not only was the news blocked, but the kid's bounty did not even increase. The government might be hiding something. Mom, what should I do? Perospero was cautious, fearing that he would anger his mother. But this time, Charlotte Lingling was not in a hurry to get angry. Even with the threat from the Navy, Charlotte Lingling just remained silent. The Navy's attitude is very firm, probably not allowing any compromise. So now there are only two choices. Either go to war with the world government for Ivan, or watch the Navy arrest Ivan. The former means that decades of foundation will be wasted, and even if you can evacuate, the 10,000 nations will not be able to keep it. The latter, however, basically means that the plot against the giant kingdom is completely shattered. How to choose? While Charlotte Lingling was entangled at the edge of the 10,000 nations sea, on the sea, Ivan was wrapped in thunder and was running on the sea. Oh! It's amazing, running on the sea. Relying on his ability to turn into light, Kizaru, who was floating in the sky, looked at the flashing lightning on the sea below in amazement, it's so fast. On the sea. Garrett was held in Ivan's arms. She was not surprised that Ivan was running on the sea at this time. She just looked at the sky in disbelief, looking at the man floating in the sky, how is it possible? That guy is, the alternate admiral of the Navy. Vice Admiral Kizaru. Garrett, who had always behaved very coldly, now showed visible fear. Ivan took the time to glance at this woman. She was a little bit afraid of the strong and the weak. Ivan. Is this the guy you said was going to stop you? Garrett looked at Ivan in horror, this guy is a monster in the Navy. But soon, she calmed down again, but don't worry. This is still in the waters of the 10,000 nations. Mom will definitely not sit idly by. Although this guy is scary, he is still far inferior to my mother. Before she finished her words. Ivan. You have nowhere to escape. A mighty voice came from a distance, I am Admiral Sengoku. I am under the order of the 5 Elder Stars to arrest you. General! Garrett almost screamed, no way! How could General Zhangguo appear here? Yvonne! What on earth did you do? I told you long ago. Yvonne said calmly, you still have time to go back. Garrett was speechless. You didn't say your enemy was such a scary guy. She couldn't even maintain her usual indifference. It doesn't matter. But immediately, Garrett suddenly gritted her teeth, no matter what kind of person it is, Yvonne, I will face it with you. Yvonne chuckled. Face it together? Ha! Whoosh 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 whoosh. The sharp sound of breaking wind has sounded, and shells are falling from the sky like rain. Next, it's time to speed up. Yvonne took a deep breath. The thunder splashed instantly, turning him into a human-shaped light bulb, emitting strong lumens. Then it's Shave. One of the 6 styles, Shave. Yvonne only saw Stussy use it once yesterday and had already mastered it. It's not a difficult thing. But the role it plays is huge. It can allow Yvonne to take another step up at his already amazing speed. A huge hole exploded on the sea surface in an instant, and Ivan's figure had disappeared directly from the spot, but on the sea surface in front of him, a torn seawater gap appeared. No way! In the sky, Kizaru pushed his sunglasses to his forehead in surprise, this speed. His eyes couldn't keep up at all. He only felt a flash of lightning split the sea in an instant. There was no chance that the falling shells would hit. So fast. Garrett 0.1 felt the speed surge, her hair seemed to be torn off by the wind, and her head was about to fly off. The surrounding scene was blurred and could not be seen clearly. Yvonne! Really fast! She exclaimed. However, Garrett suddenly found that she could not hear her own voice. No, it was different from the voice she usually heard. At this time, she saw Ivan's lips moving again, as if he was saying something. But she could not hear it, she could not hear his voice at all. Could it be that Ivan's speed was far superior to his voice at this time? The voice of Yvonne that Garrett did not hear was, Dragon Flash. Holding Garrett in his left hand, he instantly drew his sword out of its sheath with his right hand, and a huge vacuum wave swept out instantly, about to tear apart all the warships in front. Chapter 80. In the palace of Wangguo, in a room. Damn the warring states! The warships are about to enter the Wangguo. A dense array of surveillance screens appeared in front of her, and Charlotte Lingling stared at one of them with gritted teeth. The Charlotte family deployed a large number of surveillance Den Mushi under the sea in the Wangguo Sea. This specially modified Den Mushi can even see through the seawater and see the scene on the sea surface. At this time, the screen that Charlotte Lingling was focusing on showed a scene of naval warships breaking through the water. Mom! It seems that Sengoku is not joking at all. Perospero's expression was quite solemn, with him are Kizaru and Akainu, and he even brought 2 admirals as backup. This fighting force is enough to make Wangguo suffer. Apart from anything else, Mom will never be able to defeat Sengoku easily, and their fight will most likely be evenly matched. At this time, the strength of the 2 backup admirals is almost a dimensionality reduction attack compared to the other Cotters of the family. Even Katakuri can never beat any of those 2, right? What on earth did Yvonne do in G14? Perospero was shocked. Charlotte Lingling didn't say anything, but her expression was very gloomy. The enemy came to her doorstep to arrest her guests, but she couldn't take any action yet. Oh my god! At this time, someone stumbled over and said, Katakuri brother has set off on a boat. He said he was going to rescue Garrett. What? Perospero looked back in astonishment, that Katakuri guy. Did he attack without my mother's permission? Mom! He turned around, like a child who had done something bad and complained to his parents. However, Charlotte Lingling said coldly, let Katakuri go. Let him go and bring Garrett back. On the battlefield. On the Navy ship, Sengoku looked at the whistling vacuum/wave and raised his eyebrows slightly. He was not panicked by the power of this move, or rather, on the contrary. Sakazuki, are you injured by this move? That guy hasn't used his true power yet. Sakazuki said solemnly, he has a move that can summon a giant warrior. That move is quite amazing. The wounds inflicted by that kid are still aching. Is that so? Zhangguo raised his fist, and dark lightning wrapped around it. He just swung his fist. The huge domineering shock wave instantly crushed the incoming vacuum wave, and even blasted a huge hole in the sea. Didn't it hit? Zhang Guo frowned slightly. That kid is really fast. Akainu said solemnly, running on the sea is no obstacle for him at all. It's getting closer. Do you want to rush into our fleet and make us afraid to attack? Zhang Guo looked at the lightning that was close at hand in an instant. I'm here. Big fire. Akainu stepped forward, and his huge lava fist smashed towards Ivan on the sea like a meteorite. But too slow. Ivan chuckled. Huge gaps exploded one after another on the sea surface, and the dazzling lightning drew a tortuous trajectory on the sea surface. Boom! A huge magma punch fell on the sea surface, and suddenly splashed huge waves. It's a pity that these huge waves can't catch up with Ivan's figure at all. At this moment, he has passed by the warship where Zhang Guo and the others are. One heart. The soft whisper dissipated in the wind, and Ivan rushed directly to the center of the fleet in the next moment. What? Zhang Guo suddenly looked back. A brilliant golden sword light penetrated from the bottom of the deck, and in an instant it seemed as if a dazzling golden flower bloomed on the deck. This guy wants to destroy the warship. Akainu gritted his teeth. The brilliant sword light dissipated, and the next moment, the huge warship had disintegrated directly, turning into pieces of debris that fell into the sea. Stop him! Zhang Guo stepped on the air and soared into the sky. Damn it! I should have brought Kuzan here. Borsellino! What are you still doing? Here we go, Mr. Zhang Guo. The light fell from the sky, instantly illuminating the entire sea. In terms of speed, I am faster. The man turned into light. Although his eyes could not keep up, his observation haki had already locked onto his opponent. Then his body turned into photons and rushed towards the enemy. Fast. Really extremely fast. Even though it is far from the speed of real light, it is already completely superior to Ivan. In just a moment, the light that fell from the sky was about to fall on Ivan. Ivan raised his head slightly, and Kizaru locked onto him, and his observation haki also locked onto Kizaru. It was indeed very fast. Of course, he could not compare to the real light in terms of speed. After all, he was not a real Thunder Fruit ability user. However, it was also very simple to deal with this guy's speed. Wei country. Just casually swinging the sword, the rising light column instantly collided with the falling light column. It seems I have been seen through. The light instantly condensed into Kizaru's body, and with a light speed kick, it directly penetrated the sword wave that rose into the sky. However, when the shock wave dissipated, there was no trace of Ivan on the sea. It's really tough. Kizaru looked at a certain warship. Ivan stood on the side of the warship, looking around at the alert marines on the deck, and the domineering aura of the conqueror was already roaring out. Kizaru's speed is indeed unmatched. But this is based on his elemental transformation into light movement. Since he has completely turned into light, it means that any domineering attack can cause real damage to him. And once he exits the elemental state, his speed will of course drop sharply. You leave first. Ivan said to Garrett. Don't even think about it. You're under arrest. Kid. A man with Lieutenant General's epaulets on his shoulders turned into a giant rhino and charged directly at Ivan. He crashed into the blue half-giant. Crack! Wow! A scream instantly rang out on the deck, and the rhino's horn broke directly. The second stage Susanoo directly punched the Vice Admiral in the stomach with a backhand punch. With a tooth-grinding bone-cracking sound, the Rhino Vice Admiral turned into a cannonball and crashed directly through the side of the ship and crashed into the cabin of another ship next to it. Got you. Ivan. Finger gun. A guy in a white suit and a white mask attacked Ivan from behind, and his dark fingers pierced Susanoo's back. Ivan turned back calmly, and the two looked at each other. How could it be? No reaction. This guy. The eyes of the agent from CP0610 trembled. Then, Susanoo grasped the sword, cut the guy in half with one sword, and then swept across the deck, and the violent shock wave instantly cleared the entire deck. Inside Susanoo, the shadow ninja had grabbed Garrett's legs and pulled her into the shadows. Hey! Ivan! What is this? Garrett exclaimed. They will take you to the nearest island. Ivan turned his head, and Susanoo also turned his head. Bang! The huge Susanoo sword collided with the shining sword of light. Oh! What a quick reaction! Kizaru tilted his mouth and sighed obscenely. Ivan glanced at the sword of Susanoo cut off by the lightsaber, and even Susanoo's chest was cut open. Just like when dealing with Akainu, the second stage of Susanoo was not enough. Although this guy is not as strong as Akainu, his swordsmanship is indeed not weak. Evan. Garrett disappeared into the shadows as she exclaimed. So now, I can go all out. Hey! Is that the Shadow Warrior? Kizaru exclaimed in surprise, it's really amazing. Although he exclaimed, the lightsaber he swung was incredibly fast. He chopped Ivan's second stage Susanoo into pieces in just a few strokes. Ivan's body was shining with lightning, and he pulled back. His speed on the sea was something that Sengoku and Akainu could never catch up with, which was his biggest advantage. And with these warships as cover, they couldn't use all kinds of large-scale moves at all. So, this time the real opponent was only this guy. As long as he was defeated, it would be his victory. Chapter 81. Katakuri stood at the bow of a small boat, which was being pulled by a sea beast and was moving rapidly on the sea. His hand was tightly holding his trident. He didn't care what would happen to Ivan by the navy. Even if it was related to the giant kingdom, it was just his mother's strategy. Katakuri himself didn't really care. But Garrett was different. She was one of Katakuri's most important sisters. Wait for me, Garrett, brother is here to save you. This is Charlotte Katakuri. Even if he knew that the opponent ahead was someone he could not defeat at all, he would still risk his life for his family. On this side of the battlefield, Ivan fought and retreated. Even Danzo could use wind escape to penetrate the second stage Susanoo, and it was not enough to face a true master like Kizaru, even if Ivan had added haki. But fortunately, Susanoo can be repaired continuously, and a cut can be repaired immediately. That's it. Hold him back. Borsellino. A loud shout came from the sky. Ivan tilted his head slightly, and suddenly there was a golden light in the sky. A huge Buddha dozens of meters high suddenly fell from the sky, smashing through several layers of the deck. Fortunately, he controlled his body and did not fall directly into the sea. But even so, half of his body had sunk under the deck. Of course, this did not affect his punching. Although he could not use the power of the Buddha with all his strength, he could still punch with two-color domineering. Ivan did not want to try what it felt like to have a fist wrapped in both armed color and domineering color at the same time. His domineering accumulation was not enough. Even if he was hit by a domineering fist, he could not master it in minutes like the Straw Hat Junior brother. The technique of entanglement with Conqueror's haki. The huge Susanoo dissipated in an instant, and the terrifying speed broke out again. A golden light instantly pulled out of the deck, and the bulky Buddha hit nothing again. In fact, the real top powerhouses are almost all hexagonal, and most of them have no shortcomings. Sengoku's speed is certainly not slow, and he is also proficient in shave, one of the 6 styles. However, it's not that he is too slow, it's that Ivan is too fast. The biggest increase in thunder breathing is speed, not to mention that in this world, after thunder breathing can really produce thunder, Ivan still uses thunder to stimulate cells to improve his speed and reaction ability again. Again, only Kizaru can keep up with Ivan. The moment the lightning flashed, the golden light also followed. Damn it! Zhang Guo gritted his teeth. In fact, he was not without a way to deal with it. His great Buddha fruit had the ability to release powerful shock waves. If combined with the domineering shock wave, the range of the shock wave that could be released was extremely large, enough to cover all the spaces that the kid could hide in. But it didn't work. How could he use this move when there were so many navy around? By then, the kid would not be hit, but all the navy would be crushed. Ivan started running wildly on the sea again. Kizaru followed closely behind him. Whenever he wanted to completely elementalize and catch up with Ivan, Ivan would backhand a powerful country, forcing him to stop for a while, so that he could not get close. This is really endless. Kizaru stopped. He was a little distressed. This kind of pursuit battle was too boring. Ivan didn't even fight him head-on. Sure enough, he had to get back to his own rhythm. The next moment, Kizaru turned into light and appeared in the sky. Laser. With a slight movement of his fingers, dazzling lasers suddenly fell from the sky. These lasers were not fired randomly, but fell after being predicted by Kizaru's observation haki, aiming at Ivan's next direction of movement. Shishikichichiki. The lasers were fired later but arrived first, directly piercing small holes on the sea surface, which did not heal for a long time. But they did not hit. Ivan also has observation haki, so he can also predict. When the Straw Hat Junior brother just finished his training, he could easily predict the pacifist's laser. Although Kizaru is much stronger than the pacifist, the speed of his laser may not be much faster. Damn it! Akainu fell from the sky and landed on the bow of a warship. Is there no way to deal with this guy? Why didn't I find this guy so difficult to deal with last time? I can't catch up with his speed at all, and my attacks can't hit him at all. Now I can only watch the show. Do I have to move all the warships away? In this way, all kinds of large-scale moves can be fully displayed. But this guy will definitely catch up, right? Then Akainu's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Just sacrifice these navy. To get rid of such a future scourge, the dedication of the Marines is valuable. Well, there is really no other way. It seems that I have to use my ultimate move. Kizaru sighed, and a large number of photons spread out from his body, condensing into a new version of himself in the sky around him. Light clone. Yvonne looked at the sky. This is the most common ability in the Naruto world, but in this world, it is a rare high-end ability. Few people can do it. Laser. All of Kizaru's light clones used lasers at the same time. The light instantly fell like a rainstorm. Unlike Yasakani no Megatama, which is difficult to control, it can accurately avoid the warships below. At the same time, the number is also sufficient to suppress Ivan's rapid movement. So, the huge Susanoo condensed. This time, it was the third stage. Susanoo was covered with armor, but it was in the form of two Susanoos. Each side of the body held a knife. While maintaining the Susanoo, Ivan's speed dropped sharply. Although it was still amazingly fast, it was indeed slower. Although the huge Susanoo did not bring any weight burden to Ivan, the resistance did exist. Oh, it has a new look. Kizaru chuckled, but it is different from the giant form that Sakasuke mentioned. Are you going to swing your sword? Yes, you are. The two blades swung down at the same time. The huge spear instantly crushed the falling beam of light and soared into the sky. Hegemony. Elbaf's proud spear pierced through the sky, creating a huge hole in the clouds. That's Ivan. Katakuri has already arrived near the battlefield by boat. What happened? Was that move the one Ivan used when he foresaw the future? Katakuri didn't know. He just couldn't feel Garrett's breath. Garrett! Where are you? The man looked anxious. At the same time, on the sea, a blue giant wrapped in lightning was flying. Ivan suddenly looked back. You seem to be slowing down. Kizaru was already close, and his lightsaber had already chopped off Susanoo's chest. Ivan did not defend himself this time, but used his domineering chest to resist. Even the third stage armored Susanoo was cut by Kizaru's sharp lightsaber, but fortunately, it was blocked. At the same time, while Zhao Zhao was rapidly pulling away, Susanoo's four hands were holding two swords and swinging down. Waigyuo. A series of huge beams of light that were several times larger than the shock waves emitted by Ivan himself suddenly roared across the sea. Kizaru chased him while swinging his sword to split these beams of light. This time, with Susanoo dragging him down, Ivan could not get rid of Kizaru's pursuit. Kizaru kept leaving marks on Susanoo. Great! Akainu shouted excitedly. Borsellino caught up with him. However, that kid's giant swordsmanship is really good. Zhangguo said in surprise. He can use the hegemony by himself. Fortunately, Borsellino is fast enough, otherwise it would not be so easy to survive if he was hit. Luckily, that guy doesn't know that more powerful move. Before he finished speaking, Ivan watched Kizaru once again leave a scar on Susanoo, and the brilliant sword of light passed by a dozen centimeters in front of his head. Susanoo raised his two swords high. Kizaru also raised his sword naturally, ready to split Ivan's shockwave again. Then, dominate the sea. Chapter 82. Sea Domination. The moment this word came out of Ivan's mouth, the two swords in the hands of the giant Susanoo fell. Light. Extremely powerful light burst out on the two blades of Susanoo. Kizaru widened his eyes. What's going on? A sudden change of tactics. He was drowned in the dazzling white light. On the small boat not far away, Katakuri's eyes were already shaking violently. This is the move. This is the move he saw in the foresight of the future. The move that forced him to speak out to end the battle. Cake Island, monitoring room. BA High. Charlotte Lingling almost squeezed her face in front of the screen. She exclaimed in disbelief, how could it be BA High? That boy, how could he use this move alone? That move is even for her, it is a top-notch move. It is a stunt that can only be used by her and Kaido together. Ivan has been to the giant tribe and learned the moves of the giant tribe, so it is not surprising that he has learned this move. But how can he use this move alone? It obviously requires two people, and the collision of two different forces can burst out amazing power. Charlotte Linling's fat face was twisted with jealousy. Why can this kid do it, but she can't? 983 At the same time, on the battlefield. The move called Hegemony of the Sea has just begun to show its power. After swallowing Kizaru, the majestic waves rolled and spread wantonly, and finally formed a magnificent storm hundreds of meters wide, moving forward unstoppably. A huge gully was plowed out in the sea, and the warships blocking the front were crushed to pieces in an instant. The huge waves are still moving forward, carrying the momentum of destruction. What is that? Akainu looked at the surging shock wave in astonishment. How is it possible? Zhangguo's face changed completely. How could this kid use this move alone? However, there is no extra time now. This wave must be stopped, otherwise the fleet will be destroyed. Ha! Zhangguo instantly turned into a huge golden Buddha again, and with his right hand wrapped in domineering power, he slapped forward heavily, and a huge shock wave also surged out. Boom! The two waves collided with each other, and a violent storm was generated, spreading everywhere. Blocked it. The sailors on the warships all breathed a sigh of relief. He was indeed a great general of the Warring States period. He could even block such a move. Gee! If it weren't for this lord, they would have followed in the footsteps of their colleagues in front of them and been crushed to pieces by that boy's attack. In the sky, Morgan's hot air balloon was blown back by the strong wind from the sea below. But... ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha! The man was laughing almost crazily. Actually. Can you actually do this? Ivan. You guy. Ha ha ha. Big news. Absolutely big news. On the sea, Ivan looked at the two waves that were violently colliding in front of him, and the Susanoo covering his body gradually recovered to the second stage. The third stage of Susanoo is still tiring. It can't be maintained for too long. But it's enough. Now, it's the last one. Susanoo's four hands held four swords. Dragon Flash. With the addition of domineering power and thunder and lightning, a magnificent vacuum wave roared out instantly. The two waves of collision had just dissipated, and there was still a huge sunken vortex on the sea surface. When the Navy warships were still trembling in this vortex, the vacuum wave roared. In just an instant, several Navy warships were directly cut in half. Only the vacuum wave aimed at the warship where Zhangguo and the other man were was slapped away by the roaring General Zhangguo. Little devil, the Admiral roared. How long has it been? How long has it been since someone could make the Navy so embarrassed? At this time, only one ship of the expeditionary fleet was barely intact. At this time, Ivan had already landed lightly on a piece of ship debris with brilliant lightning. The sunlight fell from the sky, leaving Susanoo's huge shadow on the fragment. The shadow ninja had emerged from the shadow and respectfully led him to sink into the shadow. Do you want to leave after doing this? Kizaru suddenly flashed from a distance and kicked Ivan away at the speed of light. This guy was in a very bad state at this time. His clothes were almost torn, his skin was covered with bruises, and tears of blood were flowing from the corners of his eyes. But... who said that a special move can only be used once? The Susanoo twin swords swung down again, ba high. Kizaru almost subconsciously turned into light and flashed into the sky. Then, nothing happened. The blue half-giant disappeared. And Ivan also disappeared from the fragment. This is bad. Kizaru sighed. Blood flowed from his nostrils. What a terrible move, even he was hurt to this extent. The same domineering power, the effect of attack and defense is still very different. Ran away. Zhangguo returned to his original appearance, frowning, damn it. How could he be so difficult to deal with? Is he really just a little devil? Damn it. Akainu gnashed his teeth and said, having missed this opportunity, I don't know when the next one will be. Borsellino, that idiot. It was a simple trick to lure the enemy in, but he fell for it so easily. Even if that move was really powerful, with Borsellino's speed, as long as he kept a little distance, how could he be hit? It's useless to say anything now. Zhangguo sighed, I just hope the five elders won't pursue it too much. This time, the government is very serious. At the same time, in the distance of the sky, inside the hot air balloon that was blown away by the wind. Ha 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 ha. Write an article. Write an article. Morgans was lying in the cage, holding a pen and paper and writing furiously, this news will definitely shock the world. So, do you want to hear a plan that will shock the world even more now? A calm voice came from behind. Morgans turned around suddenly in surprise and saw Ivan sitting leisurely in the cage. Ivan. The reporter's voice suddenly became sharp as if someone grabbed his neck, why are you here? I thought you dived away. It seems that there are still many things you don't know. Ivan said lightly, how about it, have I proved myself now? That's too much. It can't be more of a lie, my friend. Morgans laughed, come on. Speak. Continue to shock me. Let me hear how you want to turn the world upside down. Chapter 83. Wanguo, an island. Brother Katakuri. Katakuri had just landed on an island when he saw his sister Garrett running over quickly. What's the situation over there? Is Ivan okay? Just now, after the battle between Ivan and the Navy ended, Katakuri received a call from Garrett, saying that she was safe, so Katakuri retreated immediately. Fortunately, the Navy was already overwhelmed at the time, and a whole fleet came over, but in the end only one ship was barely intact. It took a lot of effort just to rescue the scattered Marines on the sea, and of course they had no time to care about Katakuri. How did you get here? Katakuri was very curious about this, didn't you sail with that guy Ivan? Garrett's face was still flushed with excitement, Ivan sent me here. He summoned the Shadow Warriors and asked them to send me here. Brother Katakuri. You don't know how powerful Ivan is. He calmly dealt with Sengoku and the two alternate generals, and even Kizaru couldn't do anything to him. Katakuri was happy to see his sister was safe. But seeing Garrett so excited, he couldn't help but feel unhappy. By the way, how is Ivan now? Garrett suddenly became anxious again, Ivan stayed there to cover my retreat. No matter how powerful he is, he can't be a match for so many monsters in the Navy. Is he okay? Garrett. Katakuri looked at his anxious sister and sighed softly in his heart. His heart has been completely stolen by that kid. He's fine. Katakuri said, rather, it's the Navy that's in trouble. The fleet was destroyed by Ivan, and even Sengoku only had time to protect the next ship. Kizaru was also severely injured by Ivan, but he retreated calmly. Is that so? Garrett was so excited that she almost shed tears, that's great. It's great that Ivan is okay. She would never forget that the boy took her away from Kizaru's bombing, and held her in his arms and turned into lightning to fly across the sea, avoiding the bombing from the Navy, and finally, he covered her and sent her away. Now, whenever she thought of Ivan, whenever she thought of that boy, a sweet warm current would surge in her heart, flowing through her limbs and bones, making her whole body warm. Brother Katakuri. I'm going to find him. Garrett shouted, I'm going to find Ivan. At first, she only admired his strength and handsomeness, and later she felt that his personality was also quite attractive. Now, Ivan himself is as dazzling as the sun, making her, a little moth, want to get close to him at all costs. Katakuri was silent. Garrett, don't you realize your mother's attitude of not doing anything this time? Ivan probably has some special meaning to the government, Zhangguo said, at all costs. You want to be with him, in addition to the boy's own wishes, your mother will not be as encouraging as before. But... Katakuri looked at his sister with rosy cheeks. Since it is what his sister wants to do, on Cake Island. You actually did such a thing. Stussy had just hung up the Den Mushi from headquarters, and he could hardly hide his astonishment as he muttered to himself, young Ivan, who the hell are you? Are you the legendary Joy Boy? Not far away in the sea, the Navy ship was moving slowly. This ship was obviously overloaded, and the deck was full of injured Marines. There was no other way, all the other ships were directly destroyed by Ivan, and only this ship could carry them back. Zhangguo was in the cabin, with the Den Mushi on the table. The Admiral said nothing. What the hell are you doing? Sengoku. A man roared angrily from the other end of the Den Mushi, you are the general, and there are Sakazuki and Borsellino, plus 7 vice-generals. This lineup is enough to defeat Whitebeard. You said you let that brat run away. Did a dog chew your brain? Sorry, 5 elders. Zhangguo allowed the person on the other end of the phone to insult him, and just replied bitterly, we didn't expect that guy to be so difficult. He was so fast that no one except Borsellino could catch up with him at sea, not even me, Sakaski. Moreover, he also mastered a move called sea domination. Borsellino was careless and took the blow head-on, which gave him a chance to escape. This is all nonsense. Zhangguo. Do you remember what we said when we asked you to leave? The 5 elders on the other end of the phone continued to roar, we told you not to give that kid any chance. And this is the answer you gave us. Get back to Marijoa. With a roar, the phone was hung up. Zhangguo sighed softly. This time he was really embarrassed. At this time, Yvonne was in the basket of Morgan's hot air balloon flying in the sky. Yvonne. What on earth do you want to do? Morgan's was quite agitated, his beaks were clashing with each other. Live broadcast. Yuan said succinctly. Live broadcast. Morgan's was a little confused. Did he hear it wrong? Or was Yvonne also very excited and said it wrong? Can you help me host a live broadcast for the whole world? Yvonne said with a smile, I have something I want to show the world. Oh. It's getting interesting all of a sudden. Morgan's eyes lit up immediately, for some reason, my blood is boiling. My brain is trembling. Yvonne. Yvonne. It must be a shocking live broadcast, right? You answer me first. Yvonne looked at this inexplicable person and trembled. He thought he had suddenly arrived at home. Can you do it? Of course. It's a piece of cake. Morgan smiled proudly, who do you think I am? The branches of the World Economic News Agency are all over the world. Give me a few days. I can let everyone in the world see your face. Excellent. Yvonne certainly had no doubts. Yuta could broadcast a live broadcast to the whole world just by picking up a den mushi. With the help of Morgan's, the news chief, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? So, Yvonne. Morgan said seriously, what exactly do you want to broadcast live? What exactly do you want to tell the world? Hey! Yvonne. Tell me. Tell me now. Morgan's, do you know what happened to Marijoa 5 years ago? Yvonne said calmly. 5 years ago? Morgan's fell into thought. I don't know the details. I only know that 5 years ago, Marijoa suffered an attack. I don't know the process and result of the attack or the attacker. It's me. Yvonne said. I said, the attacker was me. Chapter 84. It's you. Morgan's jumped up from the basket excitedly and jumped off the hot air balloon. But soon, he climbed back up by the basket, his eyes shining like a flashlight. Is it you? Yvonne. You said you were the one who attacked Marijoa. Yvonne just nodded slightly, really afraid that this guy would accidentally fall off the hot air balloon. But it doesn't matter, this guy can fly. But Yvonne, are you really not lying? Morgan's eyes showed suspicion. After he calmed down and thought about it for a while, he found something wrong. 5 years ago, you were only in your early teens, right? 12 years old. Yvonne said calmly, 5 years ago I was 12 years old. 12 years old. Morgan's raised his eyebrows. Even when Charlotte Linling was 12 years old, she didn't have the ability to cause trouble in Marijoa, right? Ha 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 ha. This is really amazing. It's Yvonne after all. Can he even do such a thing? Morgan's had no intention of continuing to question, but instead exclaimed directly. If someone else had said this to him, Morgan's would have immediately raised his foot and kicked him directly in the face. But this is Yvonne. A man who can confront the Navy fleet just to prove himself to him when he could have escaped earlier. Is it necessary for such a guy to lie? So, what happened on that day? Morgan's eyes were burning. It's not a big deal. Yvonne said calmly, it's just a story about a young slave who was oppressed and got power by chance and started to take revenge. Oh. This is not an ordinary thing. Morgan's excitedly flipped into the hanging basket, and then leaned against the basket like Yvonne and laughed. In fact, just rebelling against the world government is shocking enough. In the 800 years since the establishment of the world government, there have only been 2 examples, you and Fisher Tiger. In fact, 200 years ago, the giant robots left over from ancient times also attacked Marijoa, but Morgan's didn't know about it. So, Yvonne, he looked at Yvonne, this time, do you think the revenge 5 years ago was not enough? Do you want to go to Marijoa again? Morgan's didn't care whether Yvonne was a slave of the celestial dragons in the past. The past was meaningless. He only knew that Ivan was an amazing man now. Enough? Ivan asked in surprise, what do you mean by enough? My understanding of revenge is that I won't be done until my enemies are crushed to dust and I urinate on their corpses. Ha 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 ha. Of course. This is revenge. Morgans almost laughed out of breath, but Ivan, can you do it? Can you really do this kind of thing? Since 800 years ago, the government has encountered countless challengers, and countless guys who claimed to be overlords had to retreat in disgrace in front of the government. Ivan, can you really do it? Even Morgans, who is so eager to create chaos in the world, knows how terrible the world government is. Ivan did not answer, but asked directly, you just need to answer me, do you want to help me? Morgan's smile faded a little, Ivan, I think you should understand without me saying it. If I help you, my many years of industry will be ruined, and the world government will never allow the World Economic News Agency to continue to exist. So what? Ivan didn't care. Do you want to refuse? Certainly. Morgans finally couldn't hold it anymore, and an almost crazy smile bloomed on his face, it's impossible to refuse. He. Forget about the mere industry. Even if it means death. As long as it can bring about a big news that shakes the world, it is totally worth it. So, Ivan, you just need to answer me, will you give me such news? Morgan stretched out his hand or wings to Ivan. Ivan grabbed his wings and said as a matter of course, isn't that natural? In fact, besides this, I have another very interesting idea. Oh? Interesting idea. The hot air balloon continued to fly away, and a few seconds later, a shrill laugh came from the basket. It was as crazy, and it was hard to imagine that this was a sound that a normal person could make. After flying in the hot air balloon for about a day, Morgans brought Ivan to land on a small island. This is a deserted island with lush forests, and in the middle of the forest there is an inconspicuous building. Welcome to my kingdom, Ivan. Morgans laughed and walked into the building. Almost at the same time, a group of people surrounded him. President, you are finally back. What about the news? Is there any big news at this tea party? If there is no more explosive news, the sales of the newspaper will definitely be affected. What will happen to the salary then? Ivan felt a buzzing in his ears from the noise of a group of people talking so much. All right. Morgans yelled, stop arguing, you idiots. I've brought back the biggest news this time. Oh. I've never heard you say that before. Everyone's eyes were almost shining, and they said as a matter of course, is it really such a big news? It's worth dying for. This was the second time in a short period of time that I heard the saying worth dying for. Ivan's mouth twitched. It should be said that Morgan's employees were really. So, please stay calm and contact all the branches on the sea. We need their cooperation to do a live broadcast next. Morgans looked at Ivan, Ivan, follow me. Ivan nodded gently and followed Morgans up the stairs. Only the confused employees were left, and they were quietly guessing. Live broadcast? What does that mean? What live broadcast? Is there any big event happening recently? Is the president planning to broadcast the whole thing live? However, did you find that the boy who came back with the president looked familiar? Ivan followed Morgans to his office. The big bird walked to the corner of the office and opened the safe there. After searching inside, he took out a den mushy and handed it to Ivan. Here, Ivan, your 4.1 live broadcast device. Morgans said proudly, this is not an ordinary den mushy, it is a special product that has been modified. There is no need to say much about its concealment. The world government cannot find the source of its radio waves. More importantly, Morgans said, while it is connected, its radio waves cannot be easily cut off even by the information department of the world government. Ivan nodded slightly, thank you. Indeed, without such a live broadcast device, live broadcast cannot be done at all, and the government can easily cut off communications. Morgans looked at Ivan, so, when are you going to take action? That depends on when you can prepare it. Ha 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 ha. Then you can set off now, Ivan. Morgans laughed, my subordinates are all the most professional teams. All I need is an order from me. Chapter 85. So Ivan set off. Since Morgans said so, he certainly would not delay and set off at the first opportunity. Morgans arranged a ship for Ivan and headed directly to the Red Earth continent. The location of this island is in the first half of the New World, closer to the Red Earth continent where Marijoa is located than the world capital. It only takes a few days to get there by boat. During these few days, Ivan has been recuperating and even skipping his usual exercises. He just moves his body a little every day to keep in shape. It is worth mentioning that the battle that took place in the waters of the world capital was also concealed. Without Morgan's active exposure, the sea was calm and few people knew about it. Ivan did not have any opinion on this. Anyway, what follows is the real earth-shattering event. It took 5 days to set off from the island hidden by the World Economic News Agency, and the towering Red Earth continent finally appeared in front of Ivan again. "We can only take you here, Master Ivan." Morgan's subordinates said goodbye to Ivan respectfully. They had basically confirmed Ivan's identity during the voyage in the past few days, and even guessed that the big news the president mentioned was probably related to this Master Ivan. But they didn't care. They were just looking forward to it. What kind of big news is this? The president has mobilized all the resources of the World Economic News Agency, and has even started to let all employees hide themselves. Everyone is guessing whether this will be a terrifying live broadcast that will destroy the entire World Economic News Agency once it starts. If this is the case, then serve it quickly. I can't wait. As a journalist, the soul of curiosity is already burning. Notify Morgans, it's almost time to start. Of course, Ivan didn't know that these guys sent by Morgans to drive the boat for him had so much drama in their minds. He just gave a word of advice, and then he was already entangled with the phone and ejected. A few shallow ripples appeared in the air, and Ivan had already flown to the other side of the sea as if he had passed through a flash of lightning. Moon step. This move is not much more difficult than shaving. It can also be mastered by watching Stussy use it once. Ivan rose diagonally, approaching the Red Earth continent like lightning, and began to rise straight up when he was still some distance away from the Red Earth continent. Bang, bang, bang. Leaving all the sound behind him. Although he was not running as fast as he was on the sea or on land, Ivan was still incredibly fast. It didn't take long for him to rush into the clouds, climbing up against the slightly damp and cold mist. It didn't take too long for Ivan to rush out of the mist. At this time, the top of the Red Earth continent was clearly visible. The red land disappeared in front of him soon. Ivan rushed straight up into the sky. What appeared before him was a vast expanse of red land. However, although it was endless, it was also extremely barren. What was there on it? None. Ivan looked around. The Red Earth continent that he approached this time was still some distance away from the port base below Marijoa, so he didn't reach Marijoa directly after going straight up. There was still some distance. After figuring out the direction, Ivan went up diagonally, heading towards Marijoa and towards the higher and higher sky. Not long after, at the end of the earth, a vast city finally appeared in Ivan's sight. Marijoa, it's been a long time since Ivan saw it. It's been 5 years, and now I'm finally back. Ivan's face showed a bright smile. He stepped on the air and came to the sky above Marijoa, looking down at the white city. There was no trace left 5 years ago. Marijoa now looked even more prosperous than 5 years ago. So, isn't this leaving new traces? Ivan took a deep breath and took out the den mushi given to him by Morgans from his arms. Then, let's have a good fight next. At this time, on a street in Marijoa below. You scumbags! What happened to my companions? A group of guys dressed as guards were escorting a car, which was pulled by a sturdy slave. There was a cage on the car, and inside the cage was a woman with pink hair. Bound by circles of chains, she could only lie under the cage and raise her head and roar desperately, "What the hell did you do to them? Please be quiet, Miss Ginny, you are now in the residence of the gods." Beside the car, a well-dressed guy dressed like a butler said with a smile, "You should thank the gods for their grace, so you are not executed like your companions at this moment." You guys! You guys! The woman's expression instantly twisted like a demon. She banged the cage desperately until her forehead was broken and bleeding. What a bullshit god! Shut up! The housekeeper's eyes flashed coldly, and his hand instantly grabbed the woman's neck. Too presumptuous, Miss Ginny. Even if God favors you, it is not a reason to despise God. He threw the woman hard, and she hit the other side of the cage and fell softly to the ground. However, cheer on, Miss Ginny, today is your wedding day. The butler smiled and said, "You are about to become the wife of the great celestial dragon." The woman was lying in the cage. Her strength was not that strong. The collision just now made her body seem to fall apart. Tears of unwillingness were already flowing from her eyes. After going around in circles, she finally returned to this situation. Celestial dragons. What on earth do you think of humans? But, what can we do now? This is Marijoa. Mr. Dragon, Big Brother, Bear Cub, don't come to save me, absolutely don't come. Meanwhile, in the sky, Yvonne didn't know that a tragedy was happening below. He had taken out the Den Mushi and turned it on. He first contacted Morgans to confirm that he could start. Then he adjusted the channel as Morgans said, and finally pointed the front of this thing at himself. Click. With a slight sound, the Den Mushi opened its eyes and looked at Yvonne. Can you see it? Yvonne said to the camera, live broadcast to everyone on the other side. At this moment, the Den Mushi transmitted the image and sound to the headquarters of the World Economic News Agency through radio waves. Then Morgans gave an order, now. Broadcast it to the whole world simultaneously. The major World Economic News Agency branches that had been busy a few days ago immediately started to act, and the live broadcast screens set up in almost all major countries in the world lit up instantly. Chapter 86. At the World Economic Society headquarters, Morgans was shaking with excitement as he watched the image projected by the Den Mushi in front of him. Yvonne. Yvonne. Just do it. Turn this shitty world upside down. In fact, the World Economic Association had already been warming up a few days ago, saying that they would hold a live broadcast around the world, and that they would present very important news at that time. Therefore, a large number of people had gathered in front of all the live broadcast screens around the world. And when a face finally appeared on the screen, the whole world was watching. Can you see it? The handsome boy on the screen put his face in front of the camera, everyone opposite the anchor. Then, is this guy the spokesperson for the World Economic Association? So handsome. Wait, why does he look so familiar? Hey! Isn't that the pirate who caused chaos in the Flower Kingdom? A newcomer with a bounty of 100 million berries. How could he appear in the live broadcast of the World Economic Association? The people on the sea simply didn't understand. However, in some places, some people have begun to boil. On an island in the New World. Ha 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 ha. The man with the slicked back hair laughed out loud, holding a cigar in his mouth. Is it finally started? Yvonne. Don't let me down. In the same New World, in a luxurious manner. Ah. It's that guy. Enel, who was trying to practice his domineering power, saw the guy's face on the screen clearly, and almost subconsciously swung his arm, and a lightning bolt directly pierced through the screen. Damn it! Why don't you change the screen for me quickly? I want to see what this guy is going to do. Yes. Yes, God. On the huge ship that looked like an island. Lord Moria. Lord Moria. Yvonne. It's Yvonne. He's live streaming. On Cake Island. Yvonne. Mom, Mom. What does this kid want to do now? And with Morgans again. Charlotte Linling laughed while eating dessert. Garrett stood beside her, looking at the boy on the screen intoxicated. Oh, Yvonne. On a Nagashima in Wano country. I was completely fooled by Morgans. Isn't this a little devil? The fat man said angrily. Shut up, idiot. The man in leather jacket glanced at his colleague coldly. Morgans is going through so much trouble, it must not be a simple matter. Giggle, giggle. The monster sat cross-legged on the ground, drinking from the wine gourd, wiping his mouth and laughing. Let's see what this kid wants to do. Outside the window, the white-haired girl also cast a curious look. Dad. Who knows, this might be something interesting. On the red fours. Ha 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 ha. Interesting young people. Why not take this opportunity to have a party? Captain, you just want to have a party. There is no cause and effect relationship at all. Ha 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 ha. In the Giant Kingdom. Robin, come and see. It's Yvonne. Oh? Is this guy Yvonne? He, he's so handsome. He's barely worthy of Robin. Yvonne. The black-haired girl stared at the boy on the screen. Is it about to begin? Whatever you want to do, be careful. In the Sabayati archipelago. Oh, it's finally started. Rayleigh stood on a small hill, looking at the huge projection screen in the distance. What does Yvonne want to do? Next to Rayleigh sat a man with flowers on his head. Why is there so much noise? Yo ho 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 ho, is this the boy who told you where I am? Mr. Kulokas. There is also a skeleton next to it. That's right. Kurikas nodded slightly. Ha 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 ha. Just wait and see. Rayleigh just laughed, this kid is going to shock the whole world. Xiaoqi stood on the other side of Rayleigh, holding a cigarette in her mouth. I hope Hancock can calm down a little. Yvonne. On the sea not far from the Sabayati archipelago, the Nine Snakes pirates ship stopped here. Hancock, who heard Rayleigh's call, looked at the boy on the screen with a red face. She raised her head with all her strength, pouted her lips and moved closer to Ivan's mouth on the screen. Big sister. The two younger sisters quickly stopped their sister's embarrassing behavior. Now watch carefully. Brother Ivan finally started to act. Yes, and after doing this, Brother Ivan should come back, right? Yes. Hancock was very surprised. Ivan, you are coming back soon. Finally. Marijoa, the office of the 5 elders. Why is it this guy? What is that bastard Morgan's doing? This guy is hanging out with Morgans? Could it be that the previous failure was also because he was well prepared? Now the key is, what exactly does this guy want to do? I have a bad feeling. So, where is he? I can't see the background. The whole world is talking about Ivan. At this time, Ivan looks at the camera and continues to speak. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ivan. I hope you can remember this name because I will do something next. People in the future will write history because of it, so at least they won't be troubled by not knowing my name. As for what I'm going to do. Ivan held the den mushi in his left hand and unbuttoned his shirt one by one with his right hand. Whoosh! The strong wind from the sky blew towards him, and Ivan's shirt was blown open in an instant, revealing his well-dressed chest. And the conspicuous mark on his chest. Ivan. Hancock was already biting her fingers. Ivan. In the giant kingdom, Robin also sniffed. Hey! That mark is. The whole world is shocked. This brat. Charlotte Linling exclaimed, so he's a slave of the celestial dragons. Garrett suddenly felt distressed. Did Ivan have such a past? Is he too? Somewhere in paradise, Tesoro looked at the boy on the screen and suddenly clenched his fists. Fishman Island. Princess Otohim covered her mouth, tears flashing in her eyes. Is this boy too? It's him. The 5 elders shouted angrily, the little slave who escaped 5 years ago. Li Hao, I think I don't need to introduce this, the hoof print of the 9 sky-flying dragon is the symbol of the slaves of the celestial dragons. Ivan said lightly, without any intention of covering up this humiliating past, I don't think this is a past that is difficult to talk about. After all, the one who should feel ashamed is never the victim, but the perpetrator. But the reason I show it to everyone is just to let you know. The next action is just revenge, not justice or fairness. And they are nothing special. Revenge? The whole world was stunned. Did he want revenge? Who? Could it be, the celestial dragons? What a daring brat! The 5 elders roared, who does he think he is? The view on the screen suddenly turned, and only one arrow could be seen reaching up to the sky. Then, everyone heard a voice. Chapter 87. The sky was blocked by the shocking star. What was that? People didn't react. But soon, a huge shadow gathered in the sky out of thin air, and the shocking pressure was visible to the naked eye even through the screen. Hello? What is that? Meteorite? He summoned a meteorite. It's so big. The diameter is close to 1,000 meters. What would happen if such a meteorite fell? An entire city would be destroyed. Wait, he just said he wanted revenge on the celestial dragons, could it be that he is now? The whole world was silent at this moment. No way. No one would dare to do such a thing. Between power. It's that kid. The 5 elders started to roar. That move from 5 years ago. Was it actually that kid? Who could have thought that the meteorite crash that caused huge casualties to the Tianlong people 5 years ago was actually caused by such a slave kid? Die. He must die. Wait. He is here, could he be here? The 5 elders all looked up in horror. Fall. Ivan waved his hand, and 2 huge meteorites fell down one above the other. The diameter of the lower meteorite was nearly 1 kilometer, and the diameter of the upper one was twice that of the lower one. What is this? Is it a devil fruit ability? Is there such a terrible devil fruit ability 787 in the world? What a joke! He summoned 2 meteorites like this in one go. Who on earth is he? The whole world was in a frenzy. As the meteorites fell, Ivan was also shooting down, almost in sync with the falling speed of the meteorites. At this time, the den mushi in his hand was also aimed at the white town below. Marijoa. That's Marijoa. I've seen it in the newspapers many times, I won't make a mistake. That's where the celestial dragons gather. Crazy. That guy is a lunatic. Is he going to attack Marijoa, the great celestial dragons? At this time, on a ship near the Red Earth continent on the Grand Line, a black shadow ran out of the house. Wait, Bear. Where are you going? Mr. Durag, I was almost desperate after following him all the way, but now that Marijoa has been attacked, this is the best opportunity. There is no better opportunity than this. I must go. Bang. He has turned into a black shadow and disappeared in the sky. Marijoa. The 2 huge meteorites that fell were clearly visible on the ground at this time. Meteorite. Meteorite. The celestial dragons were instantly furious. What a joke. The attack from 5 years ago, is it happening again? The painful memories of 5 years ago came back again, and the celestial dragons could no longer care about anything else, they just screamed and started running away. Just like the situation 5 years ago was repeating itself. Damn it! The team escorting Ginny found out what was happening in the sky, and the housekeeper gritted his teeth and said, "Follow me to save the master." He ignored Ginny and led the escort team forward frantically. She was just a woman, not worth mentioning compared to the great master. The woman in the cage looked up, and 2 huge meteorites were clearly visible. Bear Cub, it seems like this is the end. Stop him. We can't let the tragedy of 5 years ago happen again. The 5 elders roared, Zhangguo. You all go together. Satan roared. Yes. In Pangu City, the navy men who came to be scolded also went out. This might be a chance to atone for their sins. Borsellino, go over there and stop the meteorite from falling. Understood. The light flashed. Ivan fell synchronously with the meteorite, getting closer and closer. Marijoa. What a joke. How can the same move succeed twice? An angry roar came from below, accompanied by a huge flying slash. Almost in an instant, the meteorite below was chopped into pieces, and the remaining slash fell on the meteorite above, leaving a deep and huge mark on it. Oh, we meet again, young man. Light gathered at the side, and Kizura's body emerged. He looked at Ivan with a smile, but I can't let you get what you want this time. He crossed his hands in front of his chest, and brilliant golden light splashed. You have nowhere to escape. Yasakani no Megatama. The sky full of light bullets suddenly tilted towards Ivan. Escape? You seem to have made a mistake. Gee. Ivan calmly reached out and pressed his hand on the meteorite that fell beside him. Powerful armor. The blue armor spread instantly, and in just a blink of an eye it had already covered the entire meteorite. Then, black lines spread on the surface of the armor. Pa 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 pa. Densely packed light bullets bombarded the surface of the meteorite, and immediately there was a series of explosions. And below. The man with the strange hairstyle also tried to cut down a meteorite with his sword 5 years ago, but he didn't expect there would be a second one, so he failed. Feek Aland Geiringer swung his sword vigorously. Smash the one above for me too. He is now stronger than he was 5 years ago. Just a meteorite, watch me tear it into pieces. The knife lights fell on the surface of the meteorite, and the wind and clouds surged in an instant. Did it work? On the ground, the Tianlong people cheered in surprise. But... damn it! What is this? The 5 elders gnashed their teeth. They could see Ivan's perspective in the live broadcast. Outside of a layer of blue-black armor, all attacks only brought up a puff of smoke and could not shake the meteorite at all. Stop the communication! Cut off the communication immediately! Satan roared at the Den Mushi. The meteorite's fall was inevitable. How could this be seen by the world? Sorry. Not available at the moment. Can't find the communication channel. Can't intervene. What? At the same time, a huge meteorite fell in the smoke. What a joke! Gellinger's face changed drastically. The meteorite was completely unscathed. He swung his sword desperately again, but his invincible slash did not even cause a ripple when it landed on the meteorite. Light speed kick. Kizaru was also trying hard to launch an attack, but it was still useless. The meteorite accelerated his attack. Then, in the desperate eyes of the celestial dragons below and the incredulous eyes of the audience around the world, the broken meteorites first fell to the ground and a heavy rain fell. Then, a huge meteorite fell. Boom! The earth shattered again, and the ground was like the sea, undulating continuously, and the shock wave swept everything. Smoke suddenly rose, covering the sky and the sun. The whole world was silent. Then, smash it down. Hit Marijoa. What will happen? Is Marijoa finished? Is this the end? Such a huge meteorite. Smoke spread over the shaking city. However, the next moment, the smoke was blown away by the strong wind. A huge monster rose into the sky. Its blue body was covered with black patterns, and it was wearing armor. It had a pair of huge wings behind it. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The wind from the wings alone was enough to blow away the smoke. It was over 100 meters tall, holding 2 swords, like a war god. Ivan was high in the crystal on the giant's forehead. Susanoo is complete. Chapter 88. Ivan quietly looked down at Marijoa below. The gathering place of the celestial dragons has almost become a ruin in the face of the great impact of the meteorite. The center of the impact has become a piece of rubble, with nothing left, and the area outside has been completely destroyed by the subsequent shock waves and earthquakes. However, this is not enough. 5 years ago, they could only escape in embarrassment after being hit by 2 meteorites. Today is different. There are new moves to deal with you. Completed Susanoo. At this time, Ivan has used his last trump card. Susanoo has evolved to the final stage. The divine power of the Uchiha clan is now revealed. 10 minutes. This posture can only be maintained for 10 minutes. But it is enough. The completed Susanoo can perfectly use the user's moves, so. Susanoo's double swords instantly became pitch black, and invisible waves entangled them. At the same time, the dazzling lightning on the 2 swords has begun to jump. Dragon Flash. The 2 swords swung. The air was torn apart, and 2 huge vacuum waves suddenly fell from the sky. Swish! In just a moment, 2 huge bottomless cracks appeared on the ground, and the whole of Marijoa was cut with a scar. Well! Ivan pursed his lips. Was the slash too sharp, which reduced the scope of destruction? Well, in that case. Thunder of Ba. The dazzling lightning leaped up from Susanoo's body, and the next moment it rained down on Marijoa below like a rainstorm. Boom 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 boom. Completely different from when Ivan released the thunder himself, thick thunders fell from the sky, causing huge explosions when they hit the ground, and the splashing lightning would instantly take the lives of the surrounding celestial dragons. Look! Ivan said with a smile, holding up the Den Den Mushi. Aren't they also quite fragile? I thought they were really gods. The people of the whole world were speechless. A lunatic. An unprecedented lunatic. He actually dared. He actually could do it. However, some people were boiling with excitement. Mom, Mom! Ivan! You are such a lunatic. Ugh! Good job, boy. We should let these insect repellents know that violence is everything in this world. Hey, 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 could he be the one the captain is waiting for? He can actually do this. Kulala. Just because I wasn't paying attention, another devil like this appeared in the sea. Let's ignore the monster's comments. Ivan was attacked. Bastard! What do you think you are doing? A huge slash hit Susanoo's head, and brilliant blade light exploded in front of Ivan's eyes. Ivan lowered his head. Feek Aland Gellinger stepped on the air and flew over. He kept swinging his sword and kept sending huge slashes to hit Susanoo. However, Susanoo did not waver. Just kidding, Susanoo at this time has added armed color domineering. To put it bluntly, in terms of defense alone, Ivan's Susanoo's defense at this time is superior to Uchiha Madara, who served as a template. Although the degree of superiority is not too much. Clown, what are you doing? The long knife instantly turned into lightning and flew through the air at an incredible speed. With such a huge body, he could swing the sword so fast. Gellinger's forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat, and he quickly stepped on the air to avoid it. However, Ivan's blade was wrapped with domineering aura, and even if it just passed by, the magnificent domineering aura also swept Gellinger. Gellinger was instantly blown away by the huge force. Then, die! Another huge sword fell. Gellinger's pupil shrank. This time, he couldn't dodge. Boom! The huge sword hit the leader of the Knights of God directly, smashing him to the ground, creating a huge hole in the ground, and leaving a huge bottomless crack on Marijoa. Hey! That's Gellinger! This kid! Charlotte Lingling was already dumbfounded. She was so shocked that she didn't notice Ivan's strength. Was Gellinger, who was once very active in the Island of Gods, defeated just like that? Ivan, how strong is this kid? Ah, it seems there is no way out. Kizaru sighed, afraid of following the same fate as Gellinger. He turned into light to distance himself, and then released a laser attack. But it was useless, and he couldn't cause any damage to the giant at all. Boom! The giant landed with a bang, and the dust and shock waves that were splashed swept everything around again. Domineering and lightning entangled the two swords, and then Ivan swung the swords. Boom! This time he did not use sword skills, and the magnificent domineering shock waves roared out, turning into two long dragons that swept everything in front of them in an instant. Marijoa, which was almost reduced to ruins, was plowed into two deep gullies. Little devil! Finally arrived, the huge golden Buddha leaped into the air, slapped his hands towards Ivan, and the two-color domineering aura roared out with the shock wave, almost directly covering the huge Susanoo. The size of the warring states who turned into a big Buddha was quite large, surpassing the general giants, and was almost one-third of the complete Susanoo. But don't get in the way. Susanoo just swung his sword, and after a brief stalemate, a magnificent shock wave mixed with domineering and lightning directly crushed the shock wave of warring states and hit the man. Hungry! The admiral screamed and turned into a rolling gourd, and was chopped away by a sword. Zhang Guo was shocked. Even though he had tried his best to defend himself, he was blown away so easily. Such a terrifying force! Big fire breathing! After the warring states, it was Akainu. This man leaped into the air, and a huge magma fist came towards him. Ivan was too lazy to use any moves, just controlling Susanoo to swing the sword. The pitch! Black sword instantly shattered the huge magma fist, and the roaring vacuum wave blasted towards Akainu. Hell dog! This man was also very tough. Even in the face of this seemingly unbeatable move, he roared and punched to meet it. Then, boom! Amidst the thunderous sound, a black shadow instantly flew out of Marijoa and headed towards the wilderness outside the city. Hello! Am I seeing things? Is that General Sengoku? And the Admiral candidate Akainu? They were all killed instantly by him. What kind of monster is this guy? The whole world was boiling. This time, it was because of Ivan's unrivaled strength. Boom boom boom! Ivan looked back. Someone else was coming. One after another, human figures stepped on the air and soared into the sky. We are the Knights of God. Ishin! The over 100-meter tall Susanoo burst out with amazing speed and passed through the group of people in an instant. Then, buzz! The air was in turmoil, and countless huge slashes appeared in the sky. In just a moment, the entire so-called Knights of God were engulfed. It's so noisy! Ivan said calmly. This is the divine power of Susanoo. Chapter 89. God, the Knights of God. Killed instantly. What a joke! What kind of monster is this guy? Run! 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 This was the first time that people all over the world saw the collapsed, crying, screaming, and dying celestial dragons like ants. God? No, that's impossible. If this kind of guy can be called a god, then who is this guy who is now slaughtering them wantonly? A priest? The Sabayati archipelago. Rayleigh took off his glasses and wiped them. The prestige established by the world government's unrivaled power over the past 800 years is beginning to collapse at this moment. The celestial dragons who were as noble as gods in the government propaganda could only cry and be slaughtered like pigs. Is there anything more ironic than this? I understand the truth, Rayleigh, but... Kurikas pointed to the screen in front of him. Isn't your disciple, little Ivan, ridiculously strong? Even stronger than Roger. Ha 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 ha. This is the apprentice I taught. Rayleigh laughed. Stop bragging, Lao Lei. Xiaoqi nudged him with her elbow. Have you ever taught such a move? Rayleigh paused, that kid is indeed quite weird. This is simply not something that a devil fruit user can explain. But really? Kurikas lowered his voice, we all know that what people have always seen is just the surface of the world government. The real scary thing about them is that. Believe in Ivan. Rayleigh said calmly, believe in the young people, believe in the future, just as we have decided. Kurikas paused for a moment, then nodded gently, yes, we can only watch now. Hey, 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 hey. Are you kidding me? Is there really anyone who can do this? The man in the pink feather cloak couldn't help but sit up straight, and the frog-shaped glasses on his nose almost slipped off his face, that kid. Behind him, the man in the black feather cloak was so shocked that he almost spoke. Mr. Zhangguo, you must be okay. Marijoa. The huge war god stood in the ruined city, and the dazzling thunder was still jumping from his body in all directions, bringing further damage to the already devastated city. Ivan looked down at all this and shared what he saw with the world through the Den Mushi. It has been 5 or 6 minutes, right? Time is running out. I have to reserve time to leave. Ivan thought. Then, it is almost time to leave. Let's destroy it in the last minute. The war god's double swords were wrapped with domineering and lightning, and then waved wantonly. Huge thunder shock waves roared and spread, like long dragons that devoured everything, wantonly playing in this ruined city. At the same time, below, on the ground. Hey! Hey! The woman panted heavily and ran forward with all her might. Should I say she was lucky? She thought she was going to die here, but the giant's attack happened to cut open her cage. Should I say that the incredibly huge slash was also incredibly sharp? It didn't affect her at all and just happened to cut off the cage in front of her eyes, and even the chains on her body were cut off. Was it God's will that she would not die? Ginny was thus freed. In this case, she must survive, no matter what. She must go back to see the bear cub. That idiot, how can he survive without her? Ginny ran on the land of Marijoa. She had no idea where to run, but she had to run forward. Run to her family. But at this time. Run! Run, you idiots! Do you want to kill me? A group of people came running from not far away. It was a celestial dragon lying on the back of a slave, and a group of slaves and guards guarding him. Ginny's face changed slightly, and she turned her head and ran in another direction. However, she had already seen it. Who is that guy? A slave? Damn it! How dare a slave run on Marijoa's land? Kill her! Kill her right now! Even though he was still on the run, even though he was extremely scared, his arrogance was still deep in his bones. Yes! A man dressed as a guard shot out and was behind Ginny in an instant. He poked Ginny's back with his right index finger. Point the gun! Ginny looked back in astonishment. Is this the end? Will we never see each other again? Boom! Something fell from the sky. Ivan, who was wreaking havoc, lowered his head. Ginny opened her eyes wide in shock. A tall figure as heavy as a mountain blocked her way, and then she immediately fell into a warm embrace. I found you, finally, I found you. At this moment, I couldn't hold back my tears. Xianzhe! You idiot! Why did you come just now? Behind the tall figure, the guard's face changed drastically. His fingers pierced into the man's back, but were caught by the muscles and could not be pulled out. Wait a moment, Ginny. The man let go of the woman in his arms, his voice as gentle as ever. He just wanted to hold the woman in front of him in his arms. He didn't care about defense or anything else. I'll take care of things here first. What did you say about taking care of it, but in the end you just let those guys go? Ginny kicked her childhood sweetheart's calf in dissatisfaction. She was only tall enough to touch him, and you were so kind as to bounce out all their fatigue and pain. Because we were all slaves. The tall man, who looked like a mountain, scratched his head in embarrassment. They don't want to do that either. Well, it doesn't matter. Ginny looked at the ground around her. At least the disgusting guys have been killed. The guards fell to the ground, and the most conspicuous one was of course the celestial dragon with distorted features and no breath. He died just by bearing some of the pain he brought to others. Ginny snorted, it's really a bargain for him. All right, bear, let's run. No, wait a moment, Ginny. The bear looked up at the giant not far away. I want to thank him in person. Ivan only paid attention to that side for a moment, and immediately returned to the business. Since time is running out, let's do a test. The big knife was raised high, and the domineering roar. Waguo. A huge beam of light with a diameter of more than 100 meters suddenly blasted towards the distant world government center, Pangu City. It should be said that in the blink of an eye, the shock wave had already hit the side of the tall building, crushing the outer structure easily and roaring into it. But... boom! The next moment, the shock wave exploded directly and turned into a gust of wind. Oh! Chapter 90. The all-out, unreserved attack was blocked. Not only was it blocked, the aftermath of the shock wave was coming towards him. Ivan manipulated Susanoo to scatter it with one sword, stirring up a gust of wind in the air. Is it I'm? However, this is not something that cannot be understood. Even if a pig had lived from 800 years ago to now, it would have become a spirit. It is not difficult to understand that the guy has the strength to surpass the 4 emperors. After all, he is the final villain of the boys' comics. It is a welcome thing to have the strongest power and the protagonist to engage in the final passionate melee. I just don't know whether he did it himself or used something else. For example, the mysterious weapon in the original work. Although Vegapunk has probably not yet developed the Mother Fire, Ivan still doesn't believe that thing is completely useless. Did NT Doflamingo say that? As long as you use the surgery fruit to perform the immortal surgery, you will be able to control the national treasure of the celestial dragons after you have an immortal body. Is it because of the immortality surgery that 19 has lived from 800 years ago to the present? Speaking of which, the power of that weapon is no joke. Simply blowing up an island country is nothing special. Ivan, who controls the complete form of Susanoo, can do it with some time. However, in the original work, after the bombing of the kingdom of Lulacia, a bottomless hole was left at the original site. Not only could the sea water not fill it, but even the global sea level rose. This power is a bit exaggerated. However, Ivan looked at the tall building with a big hole in the distance, and seemed to meet a pair of deep eyes. It obviously has the power to fight against itself, but it has no intention of appearing at all. If it weren't for me to take the initiative to attack there, I would have watched the whole process. The celestial dragons don't care about the lives of mortals, and that guy, doesn't care about the lives of celestial dragons either. In this case, let's stop the test here. Let the world know that there is a strong man who can rival me hidden in the government. This may not be a good thing, but it will increase the prestige of the government. Besides, it will take 2 or 3 minutes to complete the Susanoo. So, Ivan looked down at Marijoa, which was almost reduced to ruins. This time the revenge will stop here. But next time, there is no need to wait for another 5 years. The cooldown of skills is determined by the difference in strength between oneself and the template character when using the skills. I am much stronger now than I was 5 years ago. Although Susanoo has not entered the cooldown period, Tianai Zhenxing has begun to cool down. The cooldown time of skills from the same person in the same period should be the same. The cooldown time of Tianai Zhenxing is half a year, so Susanoo should be the same. Half a year is not a long time. Of course, it is impossible to say that there is no effect at all. After all, Susanoo is my strongest move. If I can't use it within half a year, it will not be as easy as before to face a strong enemy. But it doesn't matter, I've had enough fun today. The huge Susanoo flapped its wings and flew into the sky in an instant. But even as he was about to leave, Ivan did not forget to leave 2 huge scars on the broken Marijoa with 2 backhanded slashes. Hey! Is it finally over? Kizaru floated in the sky, looking at the huge war god that was flying away quickly, but he had no intention of chasing him. Judging from the strength of that guy, chasing him would just be a waste of his life. His attack could not penetrate the defense of the giant at all, so what else could he say? What an unimaginable monster! But, if he clearly possesses such strength, why didn't he use it before? I haven't felt so refreshed in a long time. Inside Susanoo, Ivan smiled and held the Den Mushi in front of him. Everyone in front of the screen, what do you think? The whole world fell into silence. Never thought that something like this would happen. Marijoa was almost completely destroyed in just a few minutes, and the celestial dragons suffered heavy casualties. There has never been such a thing in the past 800 years. Let's stop here for the entertainment. Ivan said with a smile, everyone has been watching the excitement for so long, now I'll give you a chance to join in. Entertainment? You call this an entertainment? And join in? How many people in the world do you think are as bold as you, daring to mess around in Marijoa? And they actually succeeded. However, people have also become interested because of Ivan's words. Is there anything else this daring man wants to do? Ivan manipulated Susanoo and raised his right hand to block the crystal on his forehead. The huge palm cast a shadow on Susanoo's forehead. And in this shadow, half of a ninja emerged. First, I have to show you something. Ivan handed the den mushi to the ninja. The ninja held the den mushi in his hand, and then reached into the shadow. Then, the scene in the shadow was instantly displayed in front of people all over the world. It was deep and endless. Just looking at it would make people feel depressed, as if being stared at by a monster. However, at this time, almost all the people watching the live broadcast had no time to pay attention to this dark space. Everyone's attention has been attracted by the things in the darkness. Brilliant golden light. This is the word that should be used to describe it. In this deep and dark space, a large piece of gold, silver, and jewelry is floating there quietly. It is as huge as a mountain, and the scale can almost be described as amazing. Are they all treasures? This is too much. What a huge fortune this is. One piece. Did this guy find the legendary great secret treasure? So, why show us this? Just to make us jealous. The whole world was agitated. At this time, the shadow ninja took the den mushi out of the shadow 100 and pointed the camera at Ivan again. You all should have seen it, right? Ivan said calmly, the treasure in the shadow is worth hundreds of billions if not a trillion Baileys, which should be considered a decent fortune. Everyone was speechless. You call this a decent fortune? But money is meant to be spent. If it is hidden and not used, it is no different from a stone, so I decided to spend the money. Ivan held up 5 fingers, 5 billion Baileys, first come first served, 1 celestial dragon head can be exchanged for 5 billion Baileys from me. Don't worry about the future, I will find a way to get some more money. The whole world was silent for a moment. Then, the suppressed to the limit burst out. 5 billion. He said 5 billion Baileys. What is 5 billion Baileys? He said he was going to offer a bounty for the celestial dragons. What a lunatic! How could there be such a lunatic in the world? Why can't he offer a bounty on the celestial dragons? He made a scene in Marijoa, and the government couldn't do anything about him. Why can't he offer a bounty on the celestial dragons? Times have changed. That's right. The celestial dragons are not gods. They can only wail in front of this man. Why can't we use their heads to exchange for money? 5 billion Baileys. That's really 5 billion Baileys. Of course, Ivan couldn't hear what people around the world were thinking. He just said, anyone who has the head of the Tianlong people can contact the World Economic Society, and they will contact me. That's it, this live broadcast is over. Chapter 91. Ivan hung up the live broadcast and slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Susanoo landed on the red land of the Red Earth continent. It flew around so fast that he didn't even know where he was flying to. He only knew that it should be quite a distance away from Marijoa. After landing, Susanoo quickly disintegrated and turned into blue energy and disappeared between heaven and earth. The time for the completed Susanoo experience card is over. From now on, Susanoo will not be able to be used for half a year. Ivan stretched his body. A bright smile gradually bloomed on his face. Happy. Happy like never before. Is this the so-called revenge? Brew brew brew. The den mushi rang again suddenly. Ivan answered the phone. Ha 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 ha. Ivan. Ha 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 ha. Ivan. It was Morgans. He was so excited that he couldn't speak clearly. He just shouted Ivan's name and laughed. How is it? Morgans. Ivan walked along this red road, feeling unreal with every step he took. This light feeling made it impossible for Ivan to stop smiling. Am I satisfying you? I am so satisfied. Ivan. Morgans almost cried, this is the biggest news I have ever handled in my life. Now even if I am assassinated by the government soon, I will be satisfied. Ha, don't be in a hurry to die. Ivan chuckled, we're still a long way off. The moment when the world government is completely destroyed will be the real big news. That's right. You're right. Ivan. You can do it. Of course you can do it. Morgans shouted, or rather, if it wasn't you, how could anyone else be able to do it? Ivan's performance today completely conquered Morgans. There are such strong people in the world. There are people in the world who can do such a thing. Who else could it be if not Ivan? Who the hell could it be? Have you arranged your next task? Ivan asked. The government will go crazy. Don't worry. Morgans laughed. All branches have been transferred to the sea, all communications have been transferred to encrypted channels, and the positions of each other will never be exposed during communications. Even if the government is lucky enough to catch someone, don't try to follow the clues. But I'm still waiting for someone to come and claim your bounty, Ivan. I am looking forward to it too. Ivan smiled and said, by the way, don't forget what to do next. Of course. The newspapers are already printed. Morgans laughed. My lovely newsbirds are sending them all over the world. People who are excited about your bounty will know about it soon. Know the whereabouts of the celestial dragons who were playing leisurely on the sea 10 minutes ago. The celestial dragons do not always stay in Marijoa. Although they call the sea the filthy mortal world, they occasionally come to the mortal world. Not to mention the matter of the island of God, the reason why Sabo lost his memory was because his hometown was bombarded by the celestial dragons. Not to mention that in Doflamingo's memory, many people on an island far away in the North Sea had been persecuted by the celestial dragons. It can be imagined that the frequency of the celestial dragons coming to the mortal world is not low, and they have even set foot in the 4 seas. At this time, the number of celestial dragons still stranded on the sea is not 100, but dozens. Morgans has mastered their movements. After all, the celestial dragons make a big fuss wherever they go, and they never know what convergence is. Such a number is certainly nothing, let alone just now, it is not even as high as 5 years ago. Ivan has killed more than a fraction of the number of celestial dragons. However, it is not just Ivan who will hunt them next. There are other people on the sea as well. The main reason for this hunt is to let the world know that the celestial dragons are no longer sitting high in the clouds, and they will die if they are killed. The majesty is broken, and then, malice will surge in. The world government has ruled the world for 800 years, and the celestial dragons have exploited the world for 800 years. They have accumulated countless hatreds. Before, these hatreds were only covered up by the power of the government. And now, the government's halo has been shattered by the even more powerful Ivan. Then, courage will give birth to hatred. Roger said that the tide of the times cannot be stopped. And what Ivan is doing now is to create a brand new era. An era where the celestial dragons become prey. It is easy to destroy the world government. As long as you become stronger, you can do it sooner or later. But if you want to destroy the influence of the government, you can't do it alone. You need to get more people involved. And Ivan had already chosen a person long ago. That person will soon let the world know that there are really people who dare to take action and take the bounty of the celestial dragons. Ivan suddenly turned around and looked at the sky from which he came. Morgans, that's it, we'll talk later. Got it. The call ended. Ivan looked up at the huge figure that was approaching rapidly and then falling with a bang. It was amazing to say that the fall was shocking and the wind was blowing, but when it landed, it was indeed light and light. Ivan looked at the man in front of him. He was unusually tall and burly, and his steel-like muscles could be seen even through his clothes. His chin was very broad, with a smile on his face, and he wore a pair of narrow glasses and a spotted hat. Of course, Ivan couldn't have not known who he was. He had just finished reading his story before crossing over. Was the breath he sensed in Marijoa just now him? Hey! Young man! A woman's head popped out from the man's shoulder, and she waved and greeted Ivan with a smile. We are here to say thank you. Jenny? Ivan looked at the woman. She looked to be about 30 years old, and it was hard to tell that she was almost 40 years old. So, the bear came while Ivan was making a fuss in Marijoa and rescued the captured Jenny? Qian Li, what a coincidence. Did I save a tragedy without knowing it? Ivan nodded gently. I know why you, the Revolutionary Army, followed me. They all said thank you. Jenny jumped off the bear's back. Although she looked very bad and had many wounds on her body, she had a bright smile on her face. It can be seen that she was in good spirits. Jenny! You can't be so rude to your benefactor. Perhaps the most gentle man in the world, Xiang reminded Jenny softly, then bowed to Ivan seriously. Thank you so much, Mr. Ivan. If it weren't for you, I don't know how I would have saved Jenny. Thank you very much. Jenny also became serious and bowed deeply to Ivan. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me see Bear Cub again. Yvonne looked at the two guys. So, there will be no more Bonnie? Chapter 92. When Yvonne saw the poor Mandarin Duck Bear and Ginny, the shock he caused in just a few minutes had just spread throughout the world. Everyone disperse. A group of Marines came in a hurry, and under the leadership of a Navy captain wearing a coat of justice, they began to drive away the people gathered in front of the screen. If the live broadcast cannot be blocked in a short time, then go and drive away all the people watching the live broadcast. However, the Marines came too late. Although Yvonne had almost turned the entire Marijoa into a ruin, it actually took only a few minutes. By the time the Marines received the order from their superiors and assembled the team to rush over, everything was too late. The live broadcast had ended, the screen had gone out, and no one knew where the people from the World Economic Society had gone. All the Marines could do was vent their anger on the lonely projection screen. The Marine with the colonel's epaulets on his shoulders turned around and looked around at the restless people around him in a daze. I never thought that something like this would happen. After today, what will the world look like? On the hillside in the distance, Rayleigh and others were about to leave. On the top of the mangrove tree above, a white news bird spread its wings and flew over, and it sprinkled snow-white newspapers below. Oh! Rayleigh raised his hand to catch one, and after just a quick look, the corners of his mouth 913 were already completely raised. This really is, the offensive and defensive situation has changed. Many people in the open space ahead also picked up newspapers. Don Quixote Antonio, South Sea, Kingdom of Dodoria. Riswaldbans, the North Sea, the Kingdom of Franca. Wait, is this the location of the celestial dragons? There are so many of them. If you kill one, you will. The Navy captain, who also received a newspaper, turned pale instantly. Something big was going to happen. These newspapers are contraband. No one is allowed to keep them privately, all must be handed in. The Navy captain roared furiously, anyone who keeps them privately will be sentenced. He quickly asked his navy to surround the people here, and then confiscate the newspapers one by one. However, he knew that his actions now were just a drop in the bucket and would not have any effect at all. The World Economic News Agency and that madman have already sent more newspapers to the whole world. They want to make the Tianlong people who are still wandering in the world become their prey. Let the order of this world for 800 years be completely reversed. Madman! Madman! How could this world that the Navy fights for breed such a madman? Just as the Navy captain, Jaffa, predicted, the whole world is now in a state of panic. The whole place was in turmoil. The audacious madman almost destroyed the entire Marijoa. And now, he even wants to offer a reward for the celestial dragons. This has never happened in this world in the past 800 years. It is no exaggeration to say that even those who are least informed have received the news at the first time and were stunned. Whether it is the Four Seas or the Grand Line, whether it is a member country of the world government or a non-member country, everyone is in shock and fear about this matter. The supporters of the world government are full of fear. People who have been hurt by the government and the celestial dragons are almost cheering. Of course, there is another group of people. Ha 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 ha. That guy is so thoughtful. He actually revealed the locations of all the celestial dragons staying in the sea at this time. Now we have to take action. One head is worth 5 billion Baileys. With 5 billion berries, they can just find an island to hide. What can the government do? They are all worried about Yvonne now. The celestial dragons are indeed inviolable. Because everyone on the sea knows that once the celestial dragons are harmed, the world government will immediately come to punish them mercilessly. The Admiral of the Navy will be dispatched at the first time to punish the offender with death. But now, this situation has been broken. The celestial dragons are not so high and mighty. Majesty is such a thing that it takes constant effort to maintain. But once it is shattered by someone, don't even think about recovering it. Yvonne can do it, so why can't we? Although he is incomparably strong, we don't have to do it to his level. He has killed at least tens of thousands of celestial dragons, right? Can't we kill a few? Madmen are the most common guys in this world. They don't measure the difference in strength between each other, and they dare to do anything when they get excited. Especially, there is a huge reward. At this time, someone is ready to act. Somewhere in the new world. Goo-ha-ha-ha. How thoughtful. Yvonne. Crocodile laughed while holding a newspaper in his hand, and the next moment, his body turned into sand and scattered. Well, the time to fulfill your promise has come. Let me see what kind of era you will bring. At the same time, still in the new world. Bastard, bastard, bastard. That bastard. Is his name Ivan? The long-eared god was furious. How dare you do what I wanted to do in advance? He worked hard to cultivate his domineering power. One of his biggest goals was to go to Marijoa again to take revenge on those guys called Celestial Dragons. Another goal was to take revenge on Ivan. But after watching Ivan's performance just now, although Enel didn't say it, he knew in his heart that this goal was still far away. That bastard is too strong. So, how about completing the first goal a little bit? Hunting Celestial Dragons. Enelus raised his lips. It feels quite interesting. Although the plan to blow up Marijoa was taken by Ivan, he is not helpless now. Enelus, join the hunt. And in this chaotic moment, Marijoa. Deep in Pangu City, where a huge hole has been opened, in a room full of flowers. The 5 elders kneeled respectfully in front of someone. Lord Yumu, after a rough calculation, the number of celestial dragons who died because of that guy is close to half of the total number of people. 2 of the 19 families have few people alive. That guy is still trying to arrest the Tianlong people despite the world's condemnation. We have recalled all the Tianlong people scattered on the sea. Although they are just batteries to you, Lord Yumu, what should we do with that guy? The government's 800 years of dignity has been completely shattered because of him. Moreover, that guy's strength is really terrifying. I'm afraid that only you can fight him personally. The 5 elders said one by one, as if they were relaying a message. I'm afraid that neither we nor the Navy can do anything to him. After a short silence, a calm voice that didn't distinguish between men and women rang out, he's not that strong. It's some special method. His aura doesn't match his strength. Master Yim. The 5 elders looked up at the same time, looking at their master in surprise. We understand. This must be the case. Otherwise, how could he leave so quickly? In this case, we will launch an action against him next. In addition, Lord Im, the 5 elders asked tentatively, in order to prevent that guy from attacking again, can we relocate Marijoa away? It's up to you. The faint voice said, let Vegapunk speed up the research. The energy problem needs to be solved quickly. Yes. Chapter 93. Somewhere in the Red Earth continent. Ivan looked at Xiong and Jinny, who bowed deeply to him to express their gratitude. He could certainly feel their sincerity. Thank you. However, Ivan said calmly, I don't think I have done anything worthy of your gratitude. I said that my behavior is just revenge, and has nothing to do with justice or fairness. You are just lucky and were not affected by my attack. Otherwise, I would be your enemy now. Don't say that, little brother. Jinny raised her head and said with a smile, I'm still alive and well, right? In fact, I was saved by you. Without you, I would still be locked in a cage and might be forced to marry someone later. Get married. Xiong also raised his head quickly and said in panic, Jinny, the celestial dragons actually want to do this kind of thing. Who doesn't want to marry me? After all, I'm Jinny. Although she had just escaped from Marijoa and almost fell into hell, Jinny acted as if nothing had happened, smiling with pride, and even teasing Bear. She said, looking up with mist in her eyes, so, Bear, don't push me away in the future, otherwise I don't know when I will be snatched away again. Jinny. Bear hugged Jinny in his arms again, tears welling up in his eyes instantly. No. No matter what, I will never let you go again. I can't imagine a life without Jinny. Yet, I knew it. Jinny said with a smile, how can you live without me? Let's get married when we go back. That's enough. Did these 2 guys come here just to show off their affection? But forget it, I'm in a good mood today, so I won't pursue you. Ivan was too lazy to pay attention to the couple and turned around to leave. There is a celestial dragon staying near the Red Earth continent of the Paradise, so let's kill him first. Then go back to Hancock and rest for a while. After the 2 skill CDs are cooled down, you can start a new round of revenge. Wait. Mr. Ivan. The bear called Ivan again. Ivan looked back. Since you know our revolutionary army, you must also know our purpose. Xiong said seriously, the purpose of our revolutionary army is the same as yours, which is to overthrow the world government and the rule of the celestial dragons. Liberate this world. Since we have the same enemy, I think we can cooperate. Xiong is a very gentle man. Even when facing an enemy, he is unwilling to hurt him. But even he, when talking about the celestial dragons, naturally used the word enemy to describe them, and solemnly said that he would overthrow their rule. After all the tragedies in his life were caused by the world government and the celestial dragons. Cooperation. Yvonne turned around and said calmly, I don't mind if you want to be the enemy of the government, but cooperation. Ha! He just sneered. Did they expect him to cooperate with an organization that didn't even have the courage to rescue an important cadre who was captured for the so-called justice? Of course, Ginny herself didn't say anything, so Yvonne naturally wouldn't say much. However, since even Ginny was treated like this, it was really hard for Yvonne to imagine that if he encountered any danger, the Revolutionary Army would spare a hand to help. Hadn't Ivankov been trapped in Impel Down for many years? Of course, Xiong saw Ivan's contempt, and he hurriedly said, Mr. Yvonne, you may not know us very well. We have liberated many countries. Next, we will continue to mobilize the people to start revolutions and overthrow those corrupt kings until we gather enough strength to overthrow the world government. Yvonne just looked at him calmly. I wanted to leave, so I made a small comment. So, what happened to those countries you liberated? Xiong was stunned for a moment. The government sends troops over, what do you plan to do? Yvonne said lightly, confront the navy head-on? Or are you only responsible for liberation, and you have no control over what happens afterwards? Xiong was silent for a while. It was just as Yvonne said. The Revolutionary Army is weak now. They don't overthrow the country directly, but hide to mobilize the people, let them spontaneously rise up in revolution, and overthrow those corrupt kings. But that's all they can do. Directly confronting the navy and the government at this stage is absolutely a dead end. Brother Yvonne, don't be so mean. Seeing Xiong's embarrassment, Ginny smiled and said, each stage has its own tasks, and we are still in the development stage. Yvonne just chuckled. Now is the development stage? Even after 14 years, when the Revolutionary Army has declared war on the world government, what happened to the kingdom of Lulicia that responded to their revolution? It was easily destroyed by Im, who was experimenting with the weapon. Even if there was no weapon, and the navy sent an admiral over, what would that country do? You got one thing wrong from the beginning. Yvonne said, blind pursuit of liberation is meaningless. What? Ginny blinked in surprise. The people are important, but in this world, they are not the most important. Yvonne said calmly, overwhelming power is the most important thing in this world. Mr. Yvonne, you are wrong. Xiong retorted seriously, the people are the most powerful force in the world. The people of a country can easily overthrow a country if they unite. The people of an ocean can overthrow an ocean if they unite. If the oppressed people of the whole world unite, even the world government will have no choice but to surrender. I won't tell you how you got so many people to unite. Yvonne said calmly, if I tell you that there is a strong man hidden in the world government who is no less powerful than me, and he even has a weapon that can destroy a big country with one strike, what will you do? Xiong and Ginny's faces froze at the same time. As powerful as Yvonne? A weapon that could destroy an entire nation with one strike? Mr. Yvonne, are you telling the truth? Xiong said anxiously. If the government really has something like that, it would be terrible. The current Revolutionary Army can't fight against it at all. Why do you think the government has been able to rule the world for 800 years? Yvonne asked, and even if it didn't, how many lives would you have to kill an admiral-level enemy? Don't get it wrong, it's only by defeating the world government that you can liberate the world, not by liberating the world that you can defeat the government. It's just liberation, but there is no power to protect them. Isn't it ridiculous? If it is a world without demons, then of course the people are the greatest power, and united they can defeat all enemies. However, in this world where a strong man can fight against millions of people alone and destroy a country alone, the people can only become victims. Although it is cruel, the sea is indeed the stage for the strong. Not to mention that the world government not only has the greatest power, but also the strongest power. In the final analysis, if there were no Straw Hat Junior brothers, how could the Revolutionary Army defeat the world government in the future? They have overthrown so many countries and established so many new regimes. How many of them can really survive? The cowardice of the Revolutionary Army is secondary. The fact that they don't even realize this is what Yvonne thinks is the funniest thing. The people cannot defeat the world government even if they unite, and they cannot defeat the world government by revealing the truth of the blank 100 years. Only by defeating the celestial dragon group headed by Im can the world government be truly finished. Or do you think that even though they lost everything, it is enough for them to gain freedom? Are you really here to liberate the people, rather than just taking revenge on the government like me? If you admit that this is just a way to vent, then maybe there is a basis for us to cooperate. Chapter 94. Xiang and Ginny were sweating. Ivan's words hit their beliefs like a heavy hammer. Both of them were kind and upright people. As a member of the Revolutionary Army, they have always pursued the liberation of all oppressed people. They lost everything, but gained freedom. Are you really for the liberation of the people, not just revenge on the government? The two sentences became a knife, piercing his heart deeply. It was indeed as Ivan said, no one cared about the non-member countries. The member countries of the world government that they overthrew in recent years almost all ushered in the government's crusade soon, even if most of them were hiding behind the scenes and just mobilizing the people to carry out the revolution. Only a very small number of them survived by negotiating with the government, and the others were overthrown by the government again. The attitude of their revolutionary army was that it must be because there were not enough countries liberated at one time, otherwise the government would not have the time to counterattack. It is impossible to win by confronting the government head-on. But as long as May 40 continues to spread the idea of freedom and liberation, one day it will surely make people all over the world stand up against the world government. By then, the government will have collapsed. But now, Xiang and Ginny realized that it was not the case. If the government really had a weapon that could destroy a country in one blow, then all this seemed meaningless. As Ivan said, how many lives would it take to finally defeat them? Moreover, how would the lives of those who bravely stood up to start the revolution be guaranteed? They were different from themselves and did not have the belief to sacrifice everything for the revolution, right? They just couldn't stand the oppression anymore and decided to fight to the death. That's it. Ivan was too lazy to talk to them anymore and stretched his body. I am happy to see that you want to be an enemy of the government, but that's all. It's time to go. Wait, Mr. Ivan. Xiang shouted at Ivan's back with a very respectful tone, as you said, what should we do? He was already confused. What path should the revolutionary army take next? Ivan stopped, thought for a while, and without looking back, then just wait for me to destroy the celestial dragons. The revolutionary army is in a mess and has to rely on itself. Xiang and Ginny were stunned at the same time. Ivan had turned into a flash of lightning and shot away. Wait for him to destroy the celestial dragons. Ginny looked a little strange, then sighed, what an incredible boy. And Xiang was a little depressed. He kept thinking, if the government really hides such power, how should they fight against them? Ginny. Let's go back to find Mr. Dragon. Bear said anxiously, you must tell Mr. Dragon what Mr. Ivan said. They are now planning to start a revolution in a certain country. The time came to the second day after Ivan attacked Marijoa. The aftermath of this attack has not yet dissipated. It is better to say that after a day of fermentation, the matter has intensified. People all over the world are discussing this matter enthusiastically. Even the monsters in the New World are the same. Whitebeard said to his sons, that crazy kid did something comparable to Roger. Kaido was full of interest in Ivan, he. There is such a powerful guy in the world. I really want to fight him. But Charlotte Linlin warned her children, don't get involved with that kid. The government is going crazy. Red Hair was looking forward to it, I really want to meet him. He must be a very interesting man. Anyway, people all over the world began to hear the name Ivan. And, more discussions about Ivan are. He easily defeated the Navy Admiral Sengoku and 2 alternate admirals. Is there anyone stronger than him in the world? That's right, no one has ever reduced Marijoa to ruins like Ivan. How could Whitebeard and Kaido have the nerve to call themselves the strongest in front of him? He is the strongest man in the world. The strongest. People naturally call Ivan this. The world government uses another name. On the day after the Marijoa incident, newspapers under the world government began to fly all over the place, of course not the World Economic Association, which had been identified by the government as a heinous criminal organization that assisted Ivan. All members from the president to the cadres had become wanted criminals. The government newspaper called Ivan an unprecedented villain. The most dangerous man in the world, destroyer of world order, the devil who slaughtered gods. All the terrible and terrifying names were thrown at Ivan. The newspapers described the celestial dragons as white lotuses. Ivan's escape 5 years ago was characterized as killing his amiable master just to plunder treasures. This time, the city government regarded his behavior as a terrorist attack to conquer the world. The newspapers called on people all over the world to stand up and eliminate Ivan. Finally, there was a wanted order for Ivan. 10 billion baileys. On a ship in a certain sea area of the paradise, a fisherman with a pointy nose almost popped his eyes out of his sockets. Is the government kidding? This amount? It's unprecedented. Even the pirate king is only half as good as him. Next to him, a fat blue fishman, Jinbei also exclaimed, but that man did do something that Roger couldn't even imagine. Isn't it just making trouble in Marijoa? Pointed-nosed fishman, Aaron said unwillingly, Big Brother has done it too. I can't be compared with Ivan. The man called Big Brother by Aaron, the hero of the fishmen, the captain of the Sun Pirates, Fisher Tiger, walked out of the cabin and sighed, that guy really did something unprecedented. But I don't know how many slaves died in his uproar. Tiger sighed in his heart. But he didn't think Ivan did anything wrong. He had also become a slave and knew Ivan's anger and humiliation. Perhaps for those slaves who died in this incident, such an ending was not a bad thing. Big Brother. Ivan has announced the whereabouts of the celestial dragons at sea. Aaron looked at Tiger with excitement. After being chased for so long, I finally have a chance to take revenge. Revenge? Tiger was stunned. A flame suddenly burned from his heart. He looked around the deck. Many of his compatriots here were slaves he rescued from Marijoa. They all had burning eyes. Tiger licked his lips. No matter what Tiger chose, before he took action, Ivan's 10 billion Bailey bounty had indeed shocked the world. As the government said, this is truly unprecedented. Even the Pirate King and Whitebeard combined can be equal to him. But people thought again, judging from Ivan's performance, this number may have underestimated him. Roger and Whitebeard combined can't beat him. At the same time, in a certain sea area in the New World, a ship flying the government flag was sailing against the wind at 5.4. What are you doing, Five Elders? The game set in that city has just begun. I haven't played a battle royale in such a long time. A bloated celestial dragon wearing a spacesuit with a fish tank on his head sat on the back of a slave lying on the deck and complained unhappily. The guards and followers around him didn't dare to speak. This lord really didn't know what happened yesterday. Marijoa has become a ruin at this time, and the celestial dragons like you who haven't returned to Marijoa are almost becoming slaves. But this celestial dragon was completely unaware of this. The outlook on life formed over decades will never be so easy to change. What are you saying? I might be attacked. I'm just a mortal. How can I have the courage to attack a god? Crack! The mast of the ship was instantly broken by the thunder that fell from the sky. The shirtless man stood at the broken part of the mast, looking down at the deck below like a wolf. Yahahaha, this god seems to have heard someone calling himself a god. Chapter 95. Yeah, ha 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 ha. Is that you? The clown who calls himself god. Enelu stood on the deck, looking down at the celestial dragons in front of him with an unbelievable look on his face. It could almost be said to be a piece of cake. Many of the people guarding this guy could use haki, but for Enelu who already had a deep understanding of what haki was, they posed no threat at all. With a little distance and a few thunderbolts, these guys were all electrocuted into charcoal. Although a lot of celestial dragons were killed last time, they immediately suffered a great loss at the hands of those bastards. Although I can't attack Marijoa now, I can use this guy to vent my anger. Besides, didn't the newspaper say that there were a dozen celestial dragons scattered in the New World alone? With the speed of this god, I should be able to intercept a few more. You lowly thing like an ant, actually have some strength. Something completely unexpected happened to Enelu. Not only was the celestial dragon not afraid, but he looked at him with great interest. Ha 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 ha. It's decided. You come and become my combat slave. Hey. At this moment, even Enelu was confused for a moment. What the hell are these guys talking about? Ha 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 ha. The celestial dragon even circled around Enelu, looking at him as if he was looking at a fat pig at home. Not bad, really good. If I had a combat slave like you, I would definitely be invincible when I fight with other people. Enelu was really frightened by this guy's reaction at this time. Could it be that this guy is just like the celestial dragon he met in Marijoa before, and is actually an incredible strong man? Enelu's heart tightened. Although it can't be seen from the appearance, when he first saw Ivan, he didn't think he was that powerful. Enilu's muscles tensed, and then he subconsciously kicked the celestial dragon. Wow! The celestial dragon nearly vomited his breakfast after being kicked in the stomach by Enel. His eyes bulged like a fish, and his fat body flew out, directly crashing into the half-remaining mast behind him, and he fell to the ground wailing in pain. Enel raised his eyebrows. Once he was not strong. So. Yet, ha 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 ha. This god is really looked down upon. Enilu turned into lightning and flashed directly to the side of the celestial dragon. It hurts. Kill you. I must kill you. Holding his stomach, the celestial dragon rolled on the ground with blood all over his face. His attitude was still arrogant. Damn bastard, you actually dared to do this to the great god. God. Enilu raised his foot. Of all the gods in this world, I am enough. He stepped down. Kara. W.A. Yet, ha 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 ha. Do you understand? Idiot, this is the punishment for your transgression. Enel was a very cruel man. He laughed strangely, and kept raising his feet and dropping them. The celestial dragon was still scolding him at first, but soon turned to begging, and he finally quieted down. Yet, ha 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 ha. This is God's punishment. Enelu looked down at the bloody mess on the deck in front of him, looking refreshed. He turned around and looked at the guard who had been knocked down by him before and was lying on the ground. He was looking at him with horror. Go back and tell that meaningless world government. Only this god, Enelu, is the only god in the world. Let those celestial dragons who call themselves gods clean their necks for me. It won't be long before I will bestow divine punishment on them. Ya ha 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 ha. With a loud and crazy laugh, Enelu turned into lightning and disappeared. The news quickly spread back to the world government. Ivan is fine. This bastard has also jumped out. Is it Enelu? Increase the bounty. Have the navy step up their hunt for him. Also, tell those idiots to stop delaying and come back as soon as possible. Damn it, with the example of Enel, the mortals are really going to get agitated. Then, another piece of news came immediately. 5. The 5 Elders. Crocodile. Crocodile appears. He attacks Antonio's ship. What? Time goes back to a little while ago, almost at the same time when Enel launched the attack. Crocodile. What on earth do you want to do, you bastard? The deck of the huge ship was filled with flying sand and rocks, and the guards responsible for guarding the celestial dragons roared in fear. Do you want to attack the celestial dragons? Don't say stupid things. A pitch-black hook instantly pierced the chest of the guard from behind, and Crocodile's figure slowly gathered behind the man. You've come this far, do you still think I'm just playing house? Crocodile. The government will never let you go. More guards attacked from behind, they roared. However, Crocodile just turned around, crescent-shaped sand dune. The blade-like sand instantly swept across the waists of the guards. The next moment, all of them had turned into mummies. So. Crocodile turned around and looked at the celestial dragon who was retreating backwards. You, what do you want to do? Even though he was aware of the current situation, the Tianlong was still arrogant. Do you want to attack the Tianlong people? Because this is a promise to someone. Crocodile stretched out his right hand and grabbed the celestial dragon. In addition, 1 billion Baileys, I'm also somewhat interested. Wow! Somewhere in paradise. No, you can't kill me, I'm hungry. Ivan slowly pulled back the black knife that had stabbed into the heart of the celestial dragon in front of him. He was on a ship at this time. The deck was already littered with corpses, and now there was another corpse of a celestial dragon. After returning to paradise from the Red Earth continent, he chased after them without stopping, and finally intercepted the ship near the Sabayati archipelago and killed the celestial dragon on board. Ha 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 ha! Are you done over there? Ivan. While killing 493, Ivan was holding a den mushi in his hand, from which came Morgan's crazy laughter. You may not believe it. Crocodile contacted me. Ha 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 ha. He killed a celestial dragon. Now come to me to collect the bounty. There is also a guy named Enelu, who doesn't want to receive the bounty, but hopes that I can help him become famous all over the world. He even wants to hunt down more celestial dragons. 2. No, now 3 celestial dragons were killed in one day. Now everyone knows that the days when celestial dragons were out of reach are gone forever. Ivan chuckled. He had done very well what he had agreed with Crocodile. Enel was also a pleasant surprise. he actually made another move. The plan went very smoothly. Let someone come to my place to get the treasure. Ivan said calmly, there will probably be more people who want to claim the reward later, so don't refuse to pay. Ha 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 ha. Good. I also want to see how things will turn out. Morgans laughed, but you don't have to worry, I still have 5 billion Baileys, I can help you with it first. Then, it's news time. Is it okay? Ivan asked, the government has now completely banned the World Economic Daily. Don't underestimate me, Ivan. Morgans laughed, most of my branches are still alive and well at sea. Just wait and see. It's time to drive the so-called gods back from the sea to the sky. Let them roll back to the clouds. Chapter 96. Marine Headquarters, Marin Fanduo, Medical Department. Marshal Kong pushed open a ward and walked in. Is everything okay? Kong casually pulled a chair and sat next to the bed, asking the man sitting on the bed. It's not a big deal anymore. The man sitting on the bed, General Zhang Guo, said calmly, it's not a big deal. You say it's no big deal. The admiral sneered, your internal organs were almost torn apart by the shock wave, why are you still trying to show off? But he is stronger than that kid Sakaski. Kong sighed again, his right arm was cut off. Although it is a natural system, it is impossible to say that there is no impact. What about Saint Gellinger? He was the most seriously injured, right? Zhang Guo said, he was hit directly by that guy's sword. Kong shook his head, he barely survived, but all the bones in his body were shattered. He probably won't be able to stand up on his own anymore. The Knights of God also suffered heavy losses, with most of their members killed. The subsequent reconstruction will be even more troublesome. After all, in this attack, nearly half of the celestial dragons died. Zhang Guo did not reply, but just frowned. Now thinking back to the previous battle in Marijoa, he still felt a lingering fear. That kid was so powerful that it was unimaginable. Even when he faced the opponent's attack, he could only sigh that he could not resist it at all. Next, Marijoa will have to relocate as a whole to avoid that guy's attack again. Sora said, also, Sengoku, take a look at this. The admiral took out a roll of newspaper and handed it to Sengoku. World Economic News? Even if it is banned, it can't stop Morgans from publishing newspapers. Zhang Guo frowned and opened the newspaper. Soon, his pupils shrank. Did Crocodile go crazy too? And the guy named Enelo who attacked Marijoa before. Two daring guys suddenly appeared. Especially Crocodile, who has already received a bounty of 5 billion berries. Zhang Guo raised his head and looked at Kong, Brother Kong, this is probably a very bad sign. Everyone knows about this. Kong said, now all the ambitious people will be unable to sit still. The government means that our navy will go all out to fight these crazy guys next. Zhang Guo could understand this very well, but there was still one most important question, but what about Ivan? That guy is the biggest threat. If we can't defeat the unbeatable Ivan, then everything will be just empty talk. The 5 elders said that the guy used some special moves. His aura is totally inconsistent with the strength he showed. That posture must have some kind of limitation, otherwise, he would not leave in such a hurry. Indeed. Zhang Guo suddenly realized. If that kind of invincible power was something that the kid could master normally, he would have died in Wangguo before. In that case, there is no problem. Zhang Guo nodded heavily. He glanced at the newspaper casually. Hunting the celestial dragons might become a trend. Those gods might not be able to descend to the mortal world again. Maybe this is not a bad thing? Morgan's newspaper has been circulated again, although it took a little longer this time. But there is no doubt that people all over the world are once again deeply shocked. Forget about Ivan, but is there really anyone else who dares to do it? Crocodile. After he stopped being a Shishibukai, has he gone this crazy? And that Enelu? This guy killed 3 celestial dragons in a row. Crazy. They are all crazy. Of course, in these discussions, there are also the shouts of the lunatics. Ha ha ha. Has anyone started taking action yet? 5 billion berries. Crocodile is really quick. He got the bounty so quickly. Then I can't fall behind. Let's go. Let's go hunt the celestial dragons. The restless mood instantly spread across the sea. With Crocodile and Enelo as the leaders, all the ambitious guys could no longer sit still. In a certain sea area of the paradise. Little ones. Fisher Tiger raised his arms and shouted, "It's time for revenge." He hated humans, but he always felt that the only way out for Fishman Island was to reconcile with humans, so he would never take the initiative to hurt humans. But the celestial dragons were different. They were the scum that shouldn't exist in this world. They should have been swept into the garbage dump. Oh! The fishmen on the deck cheered. Ha 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 ha! Aaron, carrying a huge serrated knife, said, "I can't wait. Let's do it." Jinbei was also ready to fight. After listening to his friends' stories about their experiences in Marijoa, he had no good feelings towards these guys called celestial dragons. "Let's go." Tiger laughed, "Let's start the pursuit." Oh! At the same time, in the North Sea, a ship with a flamingo-like head was also sailing against the wind and waves. "Dover, is this really okay?" A slimy man asked worriedly. "The celestial dragons are not easy to mess with. Only an idiot would think that they can do what that guy named Yvonne can do, right?" "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" The man named Doflamingo sat on a sofa on the deck, his arms open, hugging two sexy and beautiful women. "The celestial dragons also have different uses. 5 billion Baileys? I'm not interested in that kind of money." The man was dismissive of Ivan's reward. "Son, I just want to take this opportunity to negotiate with the government." Negotiation. The sticky man, Torrible, was relieved, as expected of Dover. He is really far-sighted. "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" Doflamingo laughed, but Yvonne did a great job. The celestial dragons suffered heavy losses this time, and the Knights of God were beaten to pieces. They shouldn't refuse my help. Behind him, his brother, Rosinante, looked at him quietly. Shabayati Archipelago. Shakey's bar. Rayleigh was drinking with Kulokas. At this time, a figure appeared out of thin air in the shadows beside him. "Long time no see, Rayleigh." "Yvonne." Rayleigh stood up in surprise. "Haha. It's been a long time." He came up and gave Yvonne a warm hug. Chapter 97. Syaki Bar. Ha 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 ha. "Great, Yvonne." After a warm hug, Riley patted Ivan's shoulder heavily and said, "We watched the live broadcast from beginning to end a few days ago. You really did something unbelievable." "It's not that great." Yvonne smiled. No, no. That's really amazing." Praise came from the side, and the old man with flowers decorated on the back of his head laughed, "Conquering Marijoa and the like, even Roger can only shout it in his sleep." Yvonne looked at the man, a little surprised. "Mr. Kurikas. This guy actually came to see Rayleigh? Ha 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 ha. You're shocked, aren't you?" Kurikas looked several years younger than when we met last time. There were fewer wrinkles on his face, and he looked refreshed. "I was also shocked when this guy came to find me." Rayleigh sat down on the stool in front of the bar and pushed his glasses. "What I didn't expect was that he actually said that he found the members of the Rumba Pirates with your guidance. Have you found it?" Kulokas. Yvonne was even more surprised. The Magic Triangle is not a small area. Brooke has been drifting there for 50 years and has not been able to drift out. It is not easy to find a ship there. Now that we know that Brooke is in the Magic Triangle, it won't be difficult to find him. 710 Kurikas blinked. Lab is very smart. Not only can he communicate with humans, he can also communicate with various sea beasts. Although the Magic Triangle is large, Lab asked many new friends for help, so it didn't take too long to find Brooke's ship. "Can you do something like this?" Yvonne was really surprised. "Isn't this just a smaller version of Aquaman?" Ha ha ha. "Are you shocked?" Kurikas said proudly, "Lab, it's not just big in size. What are you so proud of? You had nothing to do with the whole process, right?" Rayleigh couldn't help but complain when he saw Kurikas's complacency, and then he sighed. Speaking of which, it was Lab who found Brooke on his own. After more than 30 years of waiting and searching, they finally met again. It's really touching. Fortunately, Brooke is still alive. Kurikas also sighed. Fortunately, he still remembers Lab. So what? Yvonne looked around the bar but didn't see the guy with the afro. Where's Brooke? He has already started a new journey with Rab. If you had come back 2 days earlier, you would have been able to see him. Kurikas said, we agreed to travel around the world and then meet Rab. Although we have met again now, the agreement to travel around the world has not been completed yet. Brooke said he would take the rest of the journey with him. I see. Ivan nodded slightly. If that's the case, the future of the Straw Hat Pirates will be one less perverted musician with an afro. But it doesn't matter, after all, even the crucial archaeologist is gone. Okay, how long do we have to stand and talk? Xiaoqi came out and put a bowl of fried noodles on the bar. Ivan, you haven't eaten yet, right? Is fried noodles the only option? Absolutely. Ivan smiled and sat down. Thanks, Xiaoqi, I'm hungry. I guess so. Xiaoqi leaned on the bar. So, Ivan, how about we talk about your adventures during this period while we eat? I'm really curious. Okay. Ivan agreed immediately. There was nothing to hide, so Ivan briefly told him about his experiences during this period. From Sky Island to Alabasta, from meeting Robin to going to the Kingdom of Flowers, and finally to the Giant Kingdom and the 10,000 kingdoms in the New World. In such a short period of time, Ivan has experienced a lot. Ivan is the last descendant of O'Hara and the daughter of Charlotte Lingling. Xiaoqi dusted off the cigarette ash and said lightly, how are you going to explain it to Hancock? Being indecisive is not the mentality that a good man should have. The old senior keenly noticed the information revealed in Ivan's words. Ha ha ha, this is not the point. Before Ivan could figure out how to answer the questioning of the parents of his ambiguous object, his good teacher had already taken the initiative to step forward, BJFH, to change the subject. O'Hara's orphan, the girl who can interpret the historical text, and the signpost in Charlotte Linling's hand. Ivan, are you ready to go to the final island now? That's really interesting. Crocus also quickly interrupted, if the new pirate king is not a pirate, everyone on the sea will be shocked. But... He looked at Ivan and said, Ivan, you have already done something more shocking. Ivan just ate the fried noodles silently. So, Ivan? Rayleigh asked, what are you going to do next? The world has been turned upside down, and everyone is waiting for your next move. Do nothing. Do nothing. Kurikas was surprised. Let's take a break first. It's unrealistic to destroy all the celestial dragons in a short period of time, so... Ivan put down his fork and said seriously, it's a good time to practice. Without being able to use Susanoo, Ivan didn't want to go out and play. Although he is very strong now, he is not strong enough. Rayleigh, I have mastered the flowing armament color, and I should be able to learn the higher level of Haki. The higher level, the internal destruction armament color. Got it. Rayleigh put down the bottle and said, leave it to me. Is it still in the same place? Yet. Ivan nodded gently. But before that, let's go see Hancock first. It's a headache. Time goes back to a little while ago. On a ship in the park. Did the young man say that? The man in a green cloak with a red tattoo on his face said gloomily, a weapon that can destroy a country with one strike, could it be the legendary ancient weapon? The government has existed for 800 years, so it's not surprising that there is such a thing. However, it is hard to imagine that there is a strong person who can rival that boy. In fact, the strength of that boy is hard to imagine. How can a human be that strong? Mr. Durag, what should we do next? Xiang was confused. I think what Mr. Ivan said makes sense. If we cannot protect those countries, will there be any problems if we promote their revolution? Are we just going to let those corrupt rulers make the people live a life worse than death? Facing the people living in hell, are we going to sit back and do nothing? Dragon asked, the celestial dragons of the world government are our enemies, but those corrupt kings are even more of our enemies. The bear opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Let's use this country as our answer to that boy. Durag said firmly, we will definitely protect this country. Chapter 98. It's been a while since I came back. On a deserted island near Nine Snake Island, Ivan stood in front of the cabin where he had lived for 5 years, feeling a little emotional. This is where he has lived since he came to this world. Oh, Ivan, have you lived here for the past few years? Kurikas, who ran over with him, looked around curiously. After Lab and Brooke went on a trip together, his last mission was completed. Now, like Rayleigh, he has completely entered the retirement mode. Now Kurikas is not going to return to Twin Gorges. After all, he went back there to guard Lab. He plans to find old friends one by one to reminisce about the past. I haven't been back for a long time, but it's still very clean. Although the cabin is of course very simple, Kulokas was surprised by another place. Of course it's because someone comes to clean up often. Rayleigh, who was sitting on a wooden block like a big shot, laughed. Yvonne, you have a very cute childhood sweetheart. Oh. I know. It's the Hancock that Xiaoqi mentioned, right? Crouchus also winked, even I know her. The new captain of the Nine Snakes Pirates, just leading the pirates on a few voyages, the bounty has exceeded 100 million. Besides, she is indeed a super beauty. So, it will be a headache next time, right? Yvonne. It's not easy to stand firm while playing with multiple people, Yvonne. Rayleigh said jokingly. Hancock has never been a broad-minded person. These two old men are really talkative. Let's tidy up the room first. Yvonne was too lazy to pay attention to them. He pushed open the door of the wooden house and walked in. But to be honest, there was nothing to tidy up. The room was also very tidy. The tables, chairs, dishes, and chopsticks used before were well preserved. Yvonne opened the cabinet and took a look. The sheets and quilts were also washed and folded here, emitting a fresh smell of sunshine. They should be taken out frequently for washing and drying so that they can be used at any time. Hancock? Yvonne didn't think there was another person who would do this kind of thing tirelessly. He seemed to be able to see that the girl, who was already the emperor of the Nine Snakes, would come back here every once in a while to clean the room inside and out. Seriously, Yvonne? Rayleigh's voice came from behind. Yvonne turned around and heard the teacher say, I watched you all grow up. Don't let Hancock down. That child probably can't stand such a blow. Amazon lily girls have a very intense attitude towards love. There are even terrible diseases that will kill you if you can't see your lover. As the former queen of the Nine Snakes, Rayleigh has a deep understanding of this. Don't be silly, Rayleigh. Yvonne said calmly, that option didn't exist from the beginning. Ha 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 ha. That's good. So, Yvonne. Rayleigh laughed, did you hear that? Yvonne pricked up his ears. Evan. The sound came from far outside the forest. Ivan's observation Haki had already sensed that a familiar breath was approaching rapidly. Yvonne walked out of the wooden house and could clearly see that in the forest, a huge cloud of dust was rapidly approaching from far to near. You damn trees! Get out of my way! Don't block me from seeing Yvonne! Then Yvonne saw the huge trees flying in the huge smoke again. It was not until the trees at the edge of the forest were blown away that the figure dragging the billowing smoke finally appeared in front of Yvonne. Yvonne! The moment she saw Yvonne, the girl almost screamed and rushed over. It was a real pounce. She stepped on the ground and made a huge hole. She was so fast that ordinary people could not catch up with her. Then, the girl threw herself into Ivan's arms. But Yvonne did not feel the softness at all. He just felt like he was hit by a meteorite and kept flying backwards. Oh no, the house will be knocked down. Otherwise, how could it be Yvonne? At this critical moment, he suddenly jumped into the air, took Hancock and flew diagonally into the sky, bypassed the house and fell into the forest behind. Boom! Then there was smoke and dust all over the sky again. Oh! What a passionate reunion scene! Kurokas laughed out loud. Let's go, Kulokas, let's go fishing. Rayleigh took out 2 fishing rods from the house, they should have a lot to say. Okay. In the forest. Inside a hole that was smashed. Yvonne looked up at the sky with lifeless eyes. A skylight was opened in the dense forest, and the sun was pouring in from above. Yvonne! Woohoo! Yvonne! The girl lay on Ivan's chest, and immediately felt a wet feeling in her chest. She was crying so hard. You are finally back, I really missed you. I'm back, Hancock. Yvonne raised his hand and gently hugged the girl's body. I don't know when, the petite girl has become tall and slender. Yvonne only felt that the waist in his arms was slender and full of elasticity, and the back was thin but not bony. He could feel the creamy touch through the clothes. Welcome back. Woo. The girl's body twitched, but her head was buried in Ivan's arms and she refused to lift it up. Since you said welcome back, at least look up at me. Yvonne was a little amused. No. I must be ugly now. Hancock turned her head, rubbing her cheek against Ivan's chest, and the fragrance of her hair rushed straight into Ivan's nose. Hancock is Hancock no matter what. Yvonne raised one hand and gently stroked the girl's head. Her hair was very good, and stroking her hair was like rubbing it on a piece of top-grade silk, smooth and soft, making people love it. Really? A muffled voice. Of course it's true. Ivan nodded slightly. Will Ivan really not laugh at me? Of course not. After confirming again and again, the girl finally raised her head. Ivan was slightly startled. There were traces of tears on her two bright eyes, and there was a little snot under her straight nose. Logically, she should look very embarrassed. But it was so exciting. Ivan held Hancock's head and kissed her uncontrollably. The girl's eyes widened for a moment, and her body was completely tense. Then, she immediately pressed against Ivan as softly as flowing water, closed her eyes and immersed herself in the kiss. Ivan kissed me, Ivan liked me, I proposed to you. Great. The girl devoted herself to the kiss. After a long time, their lips parted. Hancock lay on Ivan again, a little out of breath, and felt that the kiss just now had drained all her strength. But at this moment, she felt extremely satisfied, as if her whole body was soaked in hot spring water, and she didn't want to move at all. Anyway, it's great to see you again. Ivan said softly, gently resting his chin on the top of the girl's head, and a sense of security surged from the deepest part of his heart. But Ivan... Hancock suddenly remembered something, and her strength returned to her body. She raised her head, sat on Ivan, and looked down at him. What's up with that thieving cat called Nico Robin? Ah, I'm jealous after all. Chapter 99. Robin. Ivan fell into deep thought. Did he really read about his adventure with Robin in the newspaper? Let's start from the beginning. Ivan just decided to tell Hancock everything exactly as it happened. There was nothing worth hiding. From the first meeting when they first arrived in the West Sea, to the Kingdom of Flowers, the horror bark, and the adventures in the Kingdom of Giants. Hancock listened very carefully, and even her breathing became lighter. It was not until Ivan finished telling the story that Hancock blinked in shock. So, does that woman like you, Ivan? What a sharp question. Ivan thought about it and said, maybe. Robin's emotions are more reserved, which is almost completely different from Hancock. To be honest, Ivan is a little unsure about this. That. Hancock bit her lower lip, put her hands on Ivan's chest, and leaned forward. This was a very oppressive posture, especially since she was riding on Ivan, looking down at him from above. Ivan, do you like her too? 430. A more pointed question is coming soon. Even Ivan felt a little sweaty at this time. Because Hancock's eyes became very dangerous. However, lying to close people is not Ivan's style. So, after a little hesitation, he said, maybe. It is impossible to say that he has no good feelings for Robin. Robin is a strong and brave girl, elegant and dignified, confident and generous. After getting along for a period of time, it is really hard not to have a good impression of her. Oh wow! Are you Hancock? The woman, whose appearance could not be seen clearly, covered her mouth with one hand while laughing, while hugging Ivan with the other hand, and laughed at herself who was kneeling on the ground. What a pity, Ivan is the one who is going to marry me, you loser, just leave honestly. Don't do that. Ivan marrying another woman or something like that. Ivan looked at Hancock, who turned her head as if she had been electrocuted, and her black hair was flying. The corner of her mouth twitched. So what should be done next? Ivan sat up with his abdominal muscles, put one hand around Hancock's waist, pinched her chin with the other hand, and kissed her again. Ugh! Hancock, who was still screaming, softened instantly, put her hands on Ivan's chest, then on his shoulders, and finally reached behind Ivan's head and hugged his neck. Do you understand? I won't let you run away, Hancock. Ivan pressed his forehead against Hancock's and looked into the girl's eyes at close range. You can only be mine. After we destroy the world government and the celestial dragons, we'll get married. Ivan. Hancock's eyes instantly filled with hearts, as if Ivan had become the user of the sweet sweet fruit and had bewitched her. She hugged Ivan tightly and rubbed his face against hers. This is a marriage proposal. This time it is true. Ivan chuckled. Great. Hancock's body went limp again, and she leaned on Ivan's arms that were hanging around his neck. He, marry Ivan. Hancock was broken, and could only laugh strangely. In her mind, the scene that just appeared reappeared, but this time it was completely reversed. Oh, ho, ho. I am the one who is going to marry Ivan. You loser, just leave the stage. In my fantasy, I leaned on Ivan's arms, and then kicked the woman away without mercy. I will let that woman know. Hancock ignited his fighting spirit. Who is the person Yvonne likes? Sure enough, there is no way to fool around like this. So let's leave it like this for now. Let the future self worry about the future. Yvonne thought. Yvonne. A somewhat disgusting voice came from his arms. Yvonne lowered his head and met a pair of misty big eyes. Hancock hugged Ivan's neck, put his face in front of Yvonne, exhaled orchid, and his voice was as sweet as honey. I want more, kiss me. Oh my. Hancock is so clingy. Yvonne sighed. What else can I do? After a while of clinging, the two walked out of the forest. They couldn't just sit on the ground. Hancock held Ivan's arm tightly and refused to let go for a moment. Hey! Brother Yvonne! Welcome back! There were already two people in front of the house. Hancock's two sisters, Sandis Sonia and Marigold, greeted Yvonne with a smile, and ignored the sticky state of the two at the moment. After all, in their minds, it was almost a matter of course that Yvonne would marry Hancock in the future. Mary and Sonia. Yvonne also smiled and said, it's been a long time since we last met. Well done, brother Yvonne. Sandis Sonia said with a smile, we watched the live broadcast of what you did in Marijoa. It was amazing. That's right. Ha 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 ha, those arrogant celestial dragons were crushed to death by you like ants. It looks so cool. Marigold also said quickly, take us with you next time. After a brief greeting, Kulokas and Rayleigh came back with the fish they caught, and with them was Xiaoqi. When it was time to prepare lunch, when Yvonne was about to start cooking, someone volunteered to stand up. Leave it to me. Hancock walked into the kitchen confidently, Yvonne, just watch over me during my practice. Yvonne looked at the kitchen in surprise, and soon there was a ping-pong sound. He looked at Sandis Sonia and Marigold in surprise. Brother Yvonne, I have been working very hard in this short period of time. Sandis Sonia shrugged, in addition to practicing, I am also practicing housekeeping. I practice cooking every day and come to help you tidy up your room every week. But... Marigold smiled awkwardly. Although she didn't say anything, she had already said everything. Was Hancock also a cooking idiot? Yvonne. Xiaoqi, who was smoking leisurely beside him, said with a smile, you won't disappoint a girl in love, will you? Yvonne snorted, come on. He was ready, but Hancock didn't come out for a long time. Yvonne, who was a little surprised, entered the cabin, opened the door and walked into the kitchen. Yvonne. You, how did you get in here? Noticing his arrival, Hancock immediately stood in front of Yvonne with her hands and feet, as if she didn't want him to see what was behind her. Yvonne relied on his height to look behind Hancock. The small table next to him was already piled with food. Oh? Isn't this good? Yvonne firmly hugged Hancock and walked to the table. It is no exaggeration to say that the food on the table looks good and smells good. Yvonne picked up a fork beside him and prepared to try it. No. However, Hancock was like a cat with its fur standing on end. Yvonne, you can't eat it. But Yvonne had already forked a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth. Yvonne was a little surprised, doesn't it taste good? Not only is it not bad, it is actually quite delicious. Could it be that Mary and Sonia are actually idiots in taste? No. It's still far from good enough. Hancock said unwillingly, it's still far from the food you make, Yvonne. Food of this standard is not worthy of you, Yvonne. Damn it. I thought my cooking skills had improved recently. 4.0 outside the house. My sister is too hard on me. Sonia shook her head helplessly. Yes, she always wanted Yvonne to taste the delicious food she cooked, but she would feel ashamed if it was not delicious enough. Mary also sighed. Inside the house. Yvonne finally understood Hancock's idea. He smiled and said, there is really no other way, let me help. Evan. Hancock stared at him in a daze. Yvonne rolled up his sleeves and said, everyone has things they are good at and things they are not good at, so I will help you with the things you are not good at, and I will also need you to help me with the things I am not good at. Hancock only needs to be Hancock, and doesn't need to be anyone else, because I hope that when Hancock encounters something she is not good at, she will not act stubbornly, but call on me for help. The pupils of the noble and cold girl were trembling, and soon there was a mist. Evan. My eyes went dark, and I was instantly enveloped by something soft. Hancock, don't hit anyone with the ball. Chapter 100. Ivan, ah. Hancock smiled and picked up a piece of meat and put it in front of Ivan's mouth. Ivan did not refuse and opened her mouth to swallow the meat. Then, in Hancock's expectant eyes, Ivan also picked up a piece of food and handed it to her. Hancock instantly covered her face with both hands and twisted like a snake. He, Ivan picked up the food for me personally. I am so happy. This is what is called, husband and wife. Two little kids who haven't even fully grown their hair yet, what are you talking about when you say they're husband and wife? Xiaoqi said leisurely, supporting her face with her hands, don't you think it's a bit too sticky? Xiaoqi is just jealous. Hancock came back to his senses from his intoxicated state and said to Xiaoqi proudly, I have never seen Rayleigh feed you. Stop talking nonsense, silly girl. Xiaoqi didn't even raise her eyelids in the face of Hancock's provocation, it's just something left over from decades ago. Really? Hancock squinted his eyes. I don't believe it. You silly girl, okay. Xiaoqi's eyelids jumped, and she looked at Rayleigh who looked like he had nothing to do with it, old Rayleigh. Rayleigh rubbed his nose and said, Xiaoqi, how old do you think we are? They are an old couple, is there any need to be as affectionate as two young people? Then we can talk about your wine money. Xiaoqi's tone could be described as cold, causing Rayleigh to shudder instantly. Please enjoy. As expected of the Pirate King's right hand, Rayleigh's speed was amazing. Even Ivan felt his eyes were blurred. Rayleigh had already picked up a piece of fragrant lamb chop and brought it to Xiaoqi's mouth. His other hand had even respectfully taken the cigarette from Xiaoqi's mouth. Xiaoqi looked at Hancock with contempt. The Emperor of the Nine Snakes took a deep breath, turned his head and looked at Ivan pitifully. Ivan had no choice but to tear off a piece of chicken leg. What on earth is there to compete for? Ivan turned his head and met Rayleigh's eyes. Both the master and the apprentice saw helplessness in each other's eyes. At this time, the most helpless person was Kurikas clenched his fists. Have you guys stopped yet? Are you bullying an old man like this? The two sisters were silent and just ate quietly. After lunch, after a little digestion, Ivan couldn't sit still. So, in the forest, on the training ground opened by the master and apprentice, the domineering intensive training began. I wanted to ask this before. Kurikas was quite confused as he watched the master and disciple facing each other with swords in hand. Does Ivan still need Rayleigh's help in training? To be frank, the strength Ivan showed in Marijoa had completely surpassed Roger, and Rayleigh was even more vulnerable in front of him. How could an ant help an elephant with special training? That's right. Hancock also nodded repeatedly, Ivan is much stronger than old man Rayleigh. Why don't we go on a date next? Ivan's mouth twitched. But Rayleigh knew why. His observation Haki is best at sensing the strength of the breath. In an instant, he can grasp the strength of the breath of all the beasts on the entire island. The first time he met Ivan, he noticed that although the breath of this disciple was stronger than when he just went to sea, it was not to the extent of qualitative change. This kid must have used some special moves again, temporarily enhancing himself to an unimaginable degree. But the real foundation is still far away. Come on, Ivan. Rayleigh raised his sword towards Ivan, let me see what you can do now. Okay. Of course Ivan would not hesitate, and he drew his sword and shot out. Flying across the floating boat. The storm of sword blades began to blow instantly. Clang 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 clang. The blades collided, and the wind splashed everywhere. Hey! Blocked. Rayleigh actually blocked it easily. Kurikas was a little confused. Is Rayleigh so strong? Was he playing us in the past? Then he soon realized that it was not Rayleigh who became stronger, but Ivan who became weaker. He did not show the terrifying oppression that he showed in Marijoa. What's going on? But at this time, no one came to answer his questions. Ivan just kept swinging his knife and attacking Rayleigh. Looks like you found a good knife, Ivan. Rayleigh is in great shape. After all, Ivan didn't even use thunder breathing, he just used Haki. Just make do with it. Ivan stopped and sheathed the knife. How is it? Very good, you have been able to train your armament Haki to this level in such a short time. Ivan, your hard work has not been in vain. Rayleigh was very appreciative. Haki can only improve the fastest in a fierce battle with the strong. And how many powerful masters has Ivan fought in such a short time? His Haki has naturally made a breakthrough. I can already master the higher level of armament Haki. Rayleigh said seriously. The higher level of armament haki is the armament haki of internal destruction. The direct destructive power may not be much stronger than the flowing armament haki, but the lethality is stronger, and the efficiency of using haki is also higher. More importantly, after mastering this technique, the entanglement of Conqueror haki is also very close. The entanglement principle of Conqueror haki is actually similar to that of armament haki. It's just that Conqueror haki is much more difficult to control. Just wanting to accurately release Conqueror haki on someone already requires a period of hard training. And if you want to control Conqueror haki, you have to practice hard. It is even more difficult to imagine that it is as if one is using one's arms and fingers, and it is like wrapping the weapon with armed color to fight. This is a skill that only the real top masters can master. I'll leave it to you then. Yvonne chuckled. So, the practice began. A few days later at noon, Yvonne received a call from Morgans, who brought Yvonne a lot of interesting news. Ha 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 ha. 2 more people came to me to claim the reward. Morgan's tone was quite cheerful. One is just an ordinary lunatic, needless to say, and the other one is actually Fisher Tiger. Tiger. Yvonne was a little surprised. The Sun Pirates. That's right. It's the hero Fisher Tiger who caused such a big disturbance in Marijoa. Many people in his pirate group have a deep hatred for the celestial dragons. This is easy to understand, isn't it? 107. I'm just a little surprised. If I remember correctly, Tiger has always adhered to the principle of not harming humans. Now he actually took the initiative to attack the celestial dragons? But they don't have to worry, after all, they are fishmen, and no one can do anything to them if they soak in the water. Morgans laughed. Now these celestial dragons on the sea are like dogs that have lost their homes, especially those celestial dragons far away in the 4 seas, who have been besieged by a large number of pirates. Even if there is a navy escort, I'm afraid few of them can return to Marijoa. Isn't this a good thing? Yvonne said calmly, from now on, as long as I am alive and my bounty is maintained, the Tianlong people will not dare to return to the sea. Ha 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 ha. That's right. However, in this hunt, there's a guy I really care about who also joined in. The guy you care about? Don Quixote da Flamingo. That guy kidnapped a celestial dragon from the North Sea and seemed to want to negotiate with the government. Negotiation. Yvonne raised his eyebrows. I don't know the specific content. Specific content? Probably related to the 7 warlords of the sea? Yvonne guessed. Then the last thing is that in the South China Sea, the Revolutionary Army mobilized the people to overthrow a government-affiliated country. Really? Yvonne nodded slightly. In other words, the conversation that day had no effect at all? The government is furious about this. The navy has already begun to assemble. Haha, the Revolutionary Army is in big trouble now. It just happened to gather at a time when the government is full of anger and can't vent it. I guess so. Yvonne said.